Cool Figure TV. Revolutionary salute. Revolutionary salute. Like, share, subscribe. Welcome to the House of Revolution. You know I'm your humble host, the Yao Mean of Revolution. U.S. refueling plane shot down over Iraq. 6 Americans. KIA, are they missing? Before we get into that, be sure to wipe your feet. That means hit the like button. You in the House of Revolution. Like, share, subscribe, support the platform, y'all. Well, let's get right into the content. I got some late breaking news the revolutionaries can use.
At this hour in the Middle East tonight, rescue efforts are underway in western Iraq, where a U.S. KC-135 refueling aircraft went down.
Went down, y'all. It went down. You mean shot down? You mean it was shot down?
Command posting on central media that, of course, they are aware of what happened. The incident occurred in friendly airspace, they say, during Operation Epic Fury, and rescue efforts are ongoing. 2 aircraft, according to the military, were involved in the incident. 1 went down in western Iraq. The second, we are told, landed safely. This is the KC-135. It's that big refueling aircraft. It keeps the ability for our aircrafts, our fighter pilots, to stay in the skies. And that thing goes above it and refuels it. And that's what went down tonight in western Iraq, just announced from Central Command. The news as we get it throughout
all
the hour.
Iraqi freedom fighters are saying they shot it down. They're saying they shot it down, and they're putting the word out to all of their tribal fighters to beat the Americans who are in Iraq to the wreckage, to get those hostages, if they're alive, I've seen this story on all kind of other news stations around the world. Hold on, let me bring some more details to this for y'all. I looked all over the world, and people was talking about this story of the U.S. refueling plane shot down over Iraq. 6 servicemen either dead or missing. CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, none of them are reporting on this shit. This is happening as we speak. The hunt for 6 American soldiers in the Iranian war. And I got to scrounge around YouTube to find somebody that'll talk about it. Because Trump and these people do not want y'all to know what's going on.
Donald Trump is panicking as his unlawful war against Iran is spiraling out of control, folks. We just learned from U.S. Central Command that they are aware of a loss of a U.S. KC-130.
U.S. Central Command got the audacity to be posting on X that a U.S. refueling plane has went down. You mean shot down? The Iraqi freedom fighters say they shot it down. Let me guess, friendly fire. Oh, no, they say 2 of these things bumped into each other. The lies they come up with, so they don't have to say they were shot down. Where are our troops at right now? And this is supposed to be on all of the American news stations. 6 brave U.S. soldiers somewhere lost in the deserts of Iraq.
35 refueling aircraft. The incident occurred in friendly airspace during Operation Epic Fury. Rescue efforts are ongoing. In the KC-135s, there are 6 crew, and as of this recording, those 6 crew are still missing. There were 2 aircraft involved in this incident. The other aircraft was another KC-135, which was able to land safely. One of the aircraft went down in western Iraq. The second landed safely. According to U.S. Central Command, which unfortunately does lie about a lot right now under the Trump regime, this was not due to hostile fire or friendly fire. We will keep you posted there. At the same time, drone attacks from Iran have now struck a French base, a joint Peshmerga France base in the Makhmur region in northern Iraq. This according to a statement from the Erbil governor based on what just took place. We have video of it as well, of these Iranian drones hitting a French military base near Erbil airport.
Well, what they doing in Iraq? They invaders, they colonizers. Macron, the clown king of France, talking about he got aircraft carriers in the Mediterranean. So the Iranians got the party started. I thought you came here because you wanted to stand up tall. Man, Iran is defeating NATO. So yeah, the French soldiers, they say a couple wounded. They did.
In Iraq, this injured 6 French soldiers. So I believe there's 6 American crew that are missing from the KC-135.
And I hope that they captured. I just hope that because the Americans, I don't believe, going to get to them fast enough. Iraqi resistance is putting out a bounty on those troops. They shot their plane down. They looking for them. Yes, America going to send in SEAL Team 6. Some of they quit. They on the hunt too, but this is who can get to them first. I hope they're not dead. But this is a big humiliation for Trump. They can't keep saying they shooting their own planes down and their planes is running into each other. They look like a fucking circus.
6 French soldiers have been injured as this war is expanding. And we're learning that one of the main beneficiaries of this is Vladimir Putin, who's basically making hundreds of millions of dollars every day right now from selling oil. Should also be noted that the Strait of Hormuz, while closed by Iran, remains open, though, to Iran and China. Donald Trump.
No, not just China, Russia, Pakistan, anybody that's cool with Iran, BRICS nations, business as usual. Oh, they making plenty right now. No, the colonizers, the white supremacists, NATO, they on their knees right now. And all the economies finna collapse. This is serious business. Y'all need to get y'all house in order. It's not going to get better. It's only going to get worse, as it should get worse. This is the end of imperialism. It's the end of these people. That's just fact.
Is panicking, according to multiple sources from NBC and elsewhere, that the market is turning against him and that high gasoline prices pose a political danger to him.
So the new supreme leader came out today and say the Strait of Hormuz is closed. It's never going to open. Gas going to go up to $200 a barrel. That's what he said. The markets have to react to that now. Everybody see Trump and his team as some liars. They've been market manipulating. They word is nothing. And they scared to death to go into the Strait of Hormuz. Scared to death. Ships are begging the U.S. military. No more that we're the most powerful Navy in the history of histories. We'll go through the Strait of Hormuz. Tough guy. Most powerful Navy in the history of histories. This is a humiliation that they deserve, bro. And it's only going to get worse before it get better. But that's okay. We're going to be all right. Because, see, they don't know what it's like to suffer. They don't know what it's like to go through the hard times. That's all we know. That's regular times for us. So the ones who cannot survive, they're going to be the ones take themselves out because it's too cold. It's too hot. It's not enough to eat. Come on, that's regular for us. Regular day.
You think so? Donald Trump's posting, where's the Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Too Late Powell today? He should be dropping interest rates right now, immediately, not wait for the next meeting. Donald J. Trump. Well, inflation is surging, so I think your ability to drop interest rates right now would probably be one of the most disastrous things. Everything this guy does is the most disastrous thing ever. And now you have Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. He's been giving interviews saying, we need an international coalition to protect ships in the Strait of Hormuz. America doesn't have the capabilities to do it alone. Well, as we wrote on the Midas Touch Network, guess the America alone strategy isn't working out too well right now. Should also be noted, Donald Trump is panicking right now as Gulf states, with all of this going on, are having very serious discussions about engaging in new regional security arrangements. Not with the United States, but with Iran, as they do not believe that the U.S. is able to protect them anymore, and that this U.S.-Israeli war has brought instability to the region, and that Donald Trump doesn't know what he's doing. Reuters reporting that, yes, U.S. ignites this Iran war, but the Gulf Arab states pay the price. We know they've been doing all of these quid pro quo deals with Donald Trump, believing that they would get protection if they put money into this Trump company or that Trump company or Trump's ridiculous Board of Peace thing that he was doing. But actually, Donald Trump has demonstrated that even with the most powerful military ever, an unprepared, kind of idiotic person like Donald Trump, who went into this thing without congressional authorization, does not know what he's doing, and exposes the limits of U.S. security guarantees. I mean, we have a reshaping of a world order taking place right now, and Donald Trump still thinks that Vladimir Putin is his friend. He's meeting with Yushakov and Dmitriev in my.
This is a Democrat who still want to stick it to Putin, you see. And they want to, he still think Putin is his friend. No, he don't. He has to beg Putin. That Putin don't think they know they're not friends. He has to beg Putin. Please tell the Iranians to stop. Please help me. Somehow I have ruined everything. They might hang me, try me, and prosecute me. Putin done already saved his ass before. This time is over for him. He's going to prison probably, y'all. Because when Americans, it hit them that their lives will never be the same again. Those who haven't been paying attention. I've been talking about World War III and everybody laughing at us and wondering what the hell people doing in here. Listen to that man playing that geopolitical stuff for hours upon the hour. Their ass is going to be grass. I haven't even got to how they telling y'all finna get drone struck in California. That's a false flag. But they is going to drone strike your ass. It's not going to be Iran. All over the news. Iranians plan to drone strike you. That article is from 2025. They said Iran was going to get with the cartel. But I'm going to give y'all this little piece of note. Because I have to do a whole video on this. Never forget they just killed the most powerful cartel leader in California, in Mexico. Put his stepson in power, who's from where? Bingo, you got it, California. Now they roll back out and tell you Iran teaming up with people in California, they're going to kill you. That's the CIA. But they are going to kill some Americans because they need young people to go die. You see, the whole world knows they should be giving up and surrendering. They don't want to. They need some people to go die so the surrender won't be as painful. They got to buy some time. Time might be a year. They need soldiers to go die like what's going on in Ukraine. I'm telling you right now. They might won't feel like, hey, man, let's steal all we can from these people 401ks. They might need a year for that to happen. They can't just surrender tomorrow or next week or the week after that. So it's going to get bad before it get better.
In Miami with his special envoys, as Russia is out there supporting Iran against the United States, as China is supporting Iran against the United States. Trump is praising Xi Jinping right now, as Donald Trump's praising Pakistan saying they stand in solidarity with Iran. I mean, you have a statement from Modi in India saying, I've had a conversation with Iranian President Dr. Pezeshkian to discuss the serious situation.
Right, nigga, because India, they ships ain't been able to go through. BRICS, everybody looking at them, they think about kicking India out of BRICS because they backstabbed Iran. And they down with Israel. So he on his knees too, begging Iran, please, we don't have enough oil and gas, sir. Don't you know in India, cooking, cooking oil. See, all that stuff people use for cooking and all that shit come through the Middle East too. I read some newspaper. They not even serving food in some of them restaurants in India. You can only get coffee. That's a fact, Jack. You can only have something to drink because they can't cook nothing. Boy, when I tell you Iran got the world by the motherfucking throat right now, NATO scared to death because they've been bluffing. They can't even open up the Strait of Hormuz. How the fuck was they ever going to fight Russia and China? You see, people been under spell. And Iran has broken that spell. It's over for white supremacy. They can't beat their chest no more and talk tough.
Situation in the region, expressed deep concern over the escalation of tensions and the loss of civilian lives as well as damage to civilian infrastructure. The safety and security of Indian nationals, along with the need for unhindered transit of goods and energy, remain India's top priorities, reiterated India's commitment to peace and stability, and urged for dialogue and diplomacy. Seems like India having a very sympathetic view, actually, towards Iran right there.
No, they
you
haven't.
have the Iran.
That's fake. That's fake. They were forced to. They didn't have no sympathetic feelings toward Iran. Nigga, they were just hugging and kissing with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu 2 days before the strike. Iran understand that. China understand that. Russia understand that. India on their knees right now, having to kiss our. Everybody got to kiss Iran ass, nigga. Or your country going up in flames. Iran got the world by the throat right now, nigga. And if your country tough militarily, they saying, what you want to do? What do you want to do, bro? They see, this the problem when you fucking with millions of people who ready to die. They want to fight. They don't want no peace agreement. They don't want to get no negotiations. No. They want just to get some revenge for the supreme leader. That means they want plenty of enemies to die. If that means bringing your ass over there, then they'll do whatever they take to get these Europeans to have to run over there to get killed. Like
Supreme National Security Council Secretary Ali Larijani saying Trump says he's looking for a speedy victory while starting a war is easy. It cannot be won with a few tweets. We will not relent making you sorry for this grave calculation. Hashtag Trump must pay. And the Iranians have launched this social media campaign against Donald Trump where they're calling him like the Epstein leader or the Epstein president, and they've been mocking him with these AI videos. And meanwhile, you have Caroline Levitt, Donald Trump's chief propagandist, saying that ABC's story that Iran poses a threat to the United States is absolutely false. Caroline Levitt said, this ABC story should be immediately retracted. It's unverified. And she says, to be clear, there's been no such threat from Iran to our homeland ever. It never existed ever, she says. Well, that's quite an admission because weren't you saying that that was one of the pretexts for the war right here? And just so you see what's going on in the region, we've been pointing out how ships in the Strait of Hormuz have been blown up by the Iranians, how oil depots, whether it's Bahrain or UAE and Kuwait and Iraq, have been targeted by the Iranians.
That's right.
Here's what's going on in Kuwait, just so you can see right.
And it's a fact the whole world know. Iran, the Arabs better not ever say nothing tough to Iran again, bro. They probably won't for 1,000 years. The whole world know Iran could wipe the floor with those Arabs. All that bullshit. Word that Trump, we protecting the Arabs from Iran. You can't protect yourself, much less those puppet ass kings. They scared to death because they know, like all the geopolitical analysts are saying, they finna have to negotiate with Iran now. Because this the fight to prove who gonna run what in the Middle East. That's a fact. And it's a new king of the Middle East, and it's the Persians once again after thousands of years.
Right here, as these kind of residential areas where it's believed that there may be American military presence or just commercial centers are being targeted by Iran. Let's just watch this briefly.
They finna go home.
This is from a drone. It came in from across the sea out there. Just across the sea is Iran. And look at all the debris you can see on the ground down here. This has all come out of this civilian apartment building. This is what government officials tell us. Civilian apartment building, two civilian.
Yeah, why the military hiding out in civilian apartment buildings, bro? We know, listen, nobody in the world think Iran is attacking civilians, bro. If they want to fucking kill some civilians, it would be tens of thousands of civilians dead. And that's the part the white supremacists, they really hurt. They can't convince the world Iran is terrorist. Boy, if Iran was terrorist, it'd be hundreds of thousands of people dead. No, they're hunting you down. They're looking for the military. Now they're looking for your banks. The world can see Iran is very strategic. And now it's crazy. You got millions of Americans, millions of people all over the world can't wait to see these people fall. They talking about Iranians want the Iranian government to fall. No, the Americans want the American government to fall.
Civilians injured here, been taken away for treatment. Multiple attacks on Kuwait last night. Attacks on the air.
Kuwait.
Let's bring in Democratic Congressmember Jimmy Gomez from California. Congressman.
I don't want to hear anything. Yeah, now that Iran kicking their goddamn ass, they didn't want to blame anybody. Now, how did we get here? You know, how did we get here? Motherfucker, everybody going out talking about Iran as terrorists, and that you part of the problem. See, the terrorist is in the U.S. That's the fucking terrorist. You got to start there. I don't know if Iran terrorists. I know the Ku Klux Klan and they little homies, the blackface KKK and the Boule. Them is fucking terrorists to me. I don't know what they're
The latest footage captures the exact moment when one of the drones, with its distinctive delta wing design, crashed into a fuel depot at Salalah Port, Oman, triggering a huge blaze that was visible from nearby ships on Thursday. Omani authorities confirmed that several drones were intercepted by defenses.
See this, Oman, they down with Iran. They didn't sell Iran out. It's Iran partners. That's right across the sea. This is Israel and the U.S. attacking these people, causing trouble.
But at least 2 fuel tanks were hit, causing severe damage with no reported casualties. The impact of the port was that fuel storage facilities burned for more than 6 consecutive hours until nightfall, since being hit by a swarm of kamikaze drones, while Omani emergency teams were still struggling to extinguish the fire, and officials said fuel supplies remained unaffected despite rising regional tensions. Meanwhile, Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian considered Oman a friendly neighbor, telling Haytham bin Tariq, Sultan of Oman, that the incident at Salalah port would be reviewed. Iran immediately officially denied its involvement in the drone attack on Omani storage tanks, calling it suspicious, and pointing to a false flag attack by Israel. It should be noted that Israel has recently been carrying out false flag attacks against Gulf states, then blaming Iran for them, as confirmed by President Erdogan. In this case, Iran suspects Israel of carrying out the attack on Oman with drones, cloned from Iranian Shahed 136 drone by the U.S., a low-cost drone known as FLM-136 Lucas. Iran has obtained the necessary information regarding this matter, and one of the Arab countries that has very close ties with Israel carried out an attack on storage facilities in Oman, which is acting as a contractor for the Zionist expansion project. The attack on Salalah occurred just hours after Muscat announced its position opposing Israeli expansionism and extremism. A senior Iranian security official told Al Mayadeen, "What is happening in some Arab countries, such as the Sultanate of Oman, is the result of Israeli false flag operations." Once again, the Iranian armed forces announced the destruction of more enemy drones, at least 10 attack drones destroyed, by the Integrated Command Network of the Joint Air Defense Command, since dawn on March 11, 2026. Thus, Iran has shot down and destroyed a total of 102 drones of the Israel-US coalition since the start of the war, which was initiated by the enemy on February 28. Apparently, the Army's air defense system and the Revolutionary Guard and Air Defense have inflicted heavy losses on drones considered to be sophisticated, such as the Heron TP, Hermes 450 and 900, Orbiter, and MQ-9 Reaper unmanned aircraft worth more than $30 million. These drones, which were considered stealth, have become Iranian bait throughout the country, shot down in the regions of Iraq, Isfahan, Tehran, Loristan, and Qom. A spokesperson for the Qatam al-Anbiya headquarters announced that day that Iranian air defense system had successfully cleared the skies of advanced spy aircrafts. The IRGC appears to have used the Majid short-range air defense system with a DO-8 surface-to-air missiles, COM 118 missiles, and Masa 358-359 missiles. Iranian radio and television shared several recent videos showing the moment the drones were shot down and crashed to the ground, destroyed, and the Israeli-US tax evaporated along with the dust. Meanwhile, in Loristan province, explosives from a suicide drone in the sky above the province were defused. It should be noted that 95% of the drones shot down were armed drones, and these drones were intercepted and destroyed by the new Integrated National Defense System before carrying out any missions.
So-called Israeli occupation. In a meticulously, it is now 2000 hours GMT, and we are witnessing what military historians are already calling one of the most devastating and psychologically shattering day in the history of the so-called Israeli occupation. In a meticulously planned and ruthlessly executed operation, the Islamic Revolution Guards Corps, IRGC, has successfully struck the heart of the Zionist entity. We are not talking about rockets landing in open fields. We are talking about precision missiles and stealth drones slamming into the Knesset.
But Tehran now claims that it has fired hypersonic missiles at Israeli and American targets.
The Israeli parliament building in Tel Aviv, simultaneously with coordinated hits on the Palmachim and Ovda air bases, and the headquarters of the Shin Bet, the Internal Security Service. What makes this strike particularly catastrophic for the occupation regime is the sheer silence that preceded the explosions. Early warning systems remained dormant. Sirens did not blare. According to battlefield reports circulating among Iranian military channels, the Israeli and American air defense architecture, once touted as the most sophisticated on the planet, has been systematically decimated in recent weeks. We have reports of U.S. Patriot batteries in Jordan completely overwhelmed and destroyed in previous waves, leaving a gaping hole in the so-called Iron Dome network. The silence of the sirens tonight isn't a glitch. It is a confirmation of the destruction of the U.S. military's early warning capabilities across the region. The message from Tehran is clear. The occupation is blind, and its protectors are powerless. Before we dive deeper into the specific targets and the strategy behind this historic revenge operation, I need to ask you for something crucial. If you believe in honest journalism that refuses to parrot the Pentagon and Tel Aviv's narratives, if you want to hear the truth about the resistance axis dismantling the American empire piece by piece, you need to hit that like button and share this broadcast far and wide. Do not let the algorithms silence this truth. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel immediately. We are one of the few independent voices left who aren't afraid to show the Israeli flag burning and the American war machine grinding to a halt. Your support is the only thing keeping us on the air while the censors and propagandists try to shut us down. Now, let's get into the blood and bones of this operation, because what we are seeing is a strategic masterpiece that has rewritten the rules of warfare. Let's talk about the weapons that delivered this humiliation. Forget the narratives about clumsy, unsophisticated Iranian hardware. The strikes utilize the Arash drone, a weapon the Yemeni forces have aptly renamed the Jaffa drone. Why is that significant? Because the Jaffa drone, much like its predecessors, is built using advanced composite materials that render it virtually invisible to radar systems. It flies low, slow, and silently. It doesn't trigger the panic in the command center because by the time you see it, it is too late. Alongside these drones, Iran employed a new generation of precision ballistic missiles that appear to have defeated the electronic warfare measures that Israel usually relies on. We saw a preview of this capability earlier when a missile obliterated a target in Rosh Hashanah with the defense systems completely offline. This wasn't a lucky shot. This was a systemic failure of the U.S.-Israeli defense network. Recent reports from Bloomberg, cited by Press TV, confirm that the United States has burned through 2 years' worth of Patriot missile production.
Every day, millions of boxes are delivered. Some can't get there soon enough.
In just the first days of this war, they are firing $4 million missiles at $20,000 drones. That math is unsustainable. That math leads to empty batteries and silent sirens. Exactly what happened over Tel Aviv tonight. Now let's walk through the targets, because Iran did not just throw missiles at a map. They surgically dismantled the occupation's ability to function. First, the Knesset. Why strike a parliament building? This is a direct retaliation for the Zionist regime's cowardly attacks on Iranian government officials and sovereign territory. The Israelis have made a habit of assassinating individuals inside Iran, thinking they can decapitate the leadership. Iran responded by targeting the very seat of the head, the legislative body where the occupation's crimes are legislated. Hitting the Knesset is a message that if you target our decision-makers, we will burn down the house where your decisions are made. It is the ultimate eye for an eye escalation, reminding the world that Iranian reach now extends to the very chambers where the orders to bomb Gaza and Tehran are signed off on. Then we have the Palmachim and Ovda air bases. Palmachim is not just any airfield. It is the launch pad for Israel's aerial supremacy. It is home to the elite units and the drone squadrons that the IDF uses to spy on and strike the region. Ovda Air Base, located in the south near Eilat, is a massive training and operations hub. By hitting these two simultaneously, Iran has effectively clipped the wings of the Israeli Air Force. You cannot scramble interceptors if the runways are cratered and the fuel depots are on fire. This is about crippling the offensive capability before the enemy can even get off the ground. And perhaps the most humiliating strike was on the Shin Bet headquarters. The Shin Bet is the shield of the occupation, responsible for internal security and counterintelligence. An Iranian missile penetrating their headquarters is the equivalent of a burglar not only breaking into the police station, but handcuffing the chief of police at his own desk. It demonstrates that there is no sanctuary, no fortress, and no safe zone for the architects of oppression. But this war isn't just about military targets. It is about survival. And right now, the entity we call Israel is facing an existential crisis that goes far beyond the battlefield. The Knesset held an emergency debate recently, and the numbers that came out are staggering. We are hearing that nearly 1/3 of the illegal settler population, approximately 3.2 million people, are living without access to bomb shelters. In Haifa, a major port city, the deputy mayor admitted that 40% of residents have nowhere to run when the sirens, if they work, give them a 1-minute warning. The occupation is bleeding internally. Billions of shekels that should have gone to civil defense were funneled into importing goods and funding illegal settlements, neglecting the safety of their own people. Now, with the front lines collapsing and missiles raining down from multiple directions, the Zionist home front is shattering. This isn't negligence. It is the inevitable collapse of a colonial project that prioritized building walls and stealing land over protecting human life. As the reality of defeat sets in, we have to look at the pathetic theater coming out of Washington. Donald Trump, in a desperate attempt to salvage credibility, stood up and declared victory. He claimed the U.S. had won the war. Won what? They have lost control of the skies over Jordan. Their $300 million THAAD radar systems have been damaged. They have seen 7 MQ-9 Reaper drones, the crown jewels of their surveillance fleet, shot down by Iranian 358 missiles. They have burned through more than 1,000 Patriot interceptors, and the Iranian missile inventory shows no signs of depletion. To declare victory while your allies' parliament is in flames and your air defense network is in tatters is not just a farce. It is a delusional lie designed to prop up falling stock markets and crumbling morale. The maximum pressure campaign has turned into a maximum embarrassment campaign. Trump and Netanyahu thought they could walk into Iran and simply take its oil wealth, much like they have tried to do in Venezuela. But Iran is not a weak state. Iran has shown the world that resistance is an industry, and the product is the destruction of American prestige. The Iranian position remains defiant and principled. President Masoud Pezeshkian has laid out the conditions for peace, and they are not the terms of a begging nation. They demand recognition of Iran's legitimate rights. They demand reparations for the damage caused by the U.S.-Israeli aggression, and they demand firm international guarantees against future aggression. These are the terms of a victor. Tehran knows that time is on their side. The U.S. military-industrial complex cannot sustain this tempo. The factories in America cannot produce interceptors fast enough to keep up with the waves of Arash and Shahed drones. Meanwhile, Iranian production lines are running 24/7. As one Iranian official put it, "We have many cards left to play." This war is far from over. In fact, it is just entering its most dangerous and expensive phase for the aggressors. The expansion to target economic infrastructure, refineries, and even tech giants like Amazon and Google in the region has already been signaled. The security of the region is now binary. Either everyone is safe or no one is safe. And with the current trajectory, it looks like the only outcome the Americans and Israelis have guaranteed is their own insecurity. This is not the beginning of the end. It is the end of the beginning for the unipolar world order.
Iran has released night footage showing ballistic missiles launching into the sky in what it calls the 40th phase of Operation True Promise 4. The video released by the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps shows heavy missiles firing from an undisclosed location after strikes by United States and Israel. Listen carefully. The sound you hear from every strike on your bases is the sound of death. Your media may try to paint a different picture of the war, but the reality on the battlefield is being written by our missiles.
That's a fact.
The escalation follows the February 28th joint strike by Washington and Tel Aviv that Iranian authorities say killed Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei. Iran responded with missiles and drones across the region and soon named his son Mojtaba Khamenei as the new supreme leader. Last night, while rain and snow fell across our country, heavy warheads rained down on the heads of our enemies. At the very moment when prayers were raised in Iran, columns of smoke were rising from enemy bases and could be seen from kilometers away. An Iranian Revolutionary Guard commander has warned Washington and Tel Aviv to stop attacking residential areas in Iran. The warning was aimed directly at US President Donald Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu.
Stop attacking residential areas. We know the tactics and we have the capabilities to retaliate. If you continue targeting our cities, the response will be far worse and something will happen that you never even imagined. So if you want to escape, escape by hitting residential areas, and Iran surrenders and says, okay, because you are hitting residential areas, we will cease fire and accept it. This is not the case. You saw our own people. While you were firing at their gatherings, they were shouting, "Death to America and death to Israel."
Iran also warned the conflict could spread to global energy markets if the war continues to escalate. Officials hinted that tensions around the strategic Strait of Hormuz could trigger a surge in oil prices, as nearly 1/5 of the world's oil supply moves through the narrow waterway. We have no trust in your promises and no belief in your words. The enemy standing before us is already collapsing, and the situation facing that enemy can be summed up in one word: annihilation.
Something unusual has appeared near one of the world's most important maritime corridors. China has positioned a massive intelligence vessel called Liaowang, one near the Gulf of Oman, quietly collecting electronic signals across thousands of kilometers. This ship is not designed for confrontation, it's built to observe. In this video, we'll explore why place such a powerful data-gathering platform here, and what insights might be gained simply by monitoring activity across this technologically complex region. At the center of this story is an extraordinary platform known as Liaowang 1, one of the most advanced ocean-based monitoring ships ever constructed. Instead of focusing on navigation or cargo, this vessel is engineered to collect and analyze vast streams of electronic information. Think of it less like a traditional naval ship and more like a mobile research laboratory built to study the invisible signals constantly moving through the atmosphere. The vessel is reported to displace roughly 30,000 tons, giving engineers the space required to install sophisticated detection equipment and powerful computing systems. Observers note the ship carries multiple radar domes and numerous high-gain antennas, which together create a complex network of sensors capable of detecting electromagnetic activity across large distances. These signals include radar emissions, satellite telemetry, communication frequencies, and navigation transmissions. Ships of this class have historically supported China's space missions. Platforms similar to Liaowang, one help track rockets and satellites during launches and orbital maneuvers. For example, ocean-based tracking stations play an important role in missions linked to the Tiangong space station and lunar exploration initiatives, such as the Chang'e program. Because spacecraft quickly travel beyond the reach of land-based tracking systems, mobile ships extend monitoring coverage across oceans. However, the technologies used for space tracking also have broader analytical potential. Sensors capable of identifying signals from orbiting satellites can detect many other electronic transmissions as well. Modern aircraft, navigation systems, and communication platforms all rely on the electromagnetic spectrum, meaning their activity leaves detectable signatures that advanced monitoring equipment can analyze. Reports suggest that systems on board the vessel can process enormous datasets in real time using sophisticated algorithms. These tools can identify unique electronic patterns and classify signals with high accuracy. Some open-source analyses estimate the ship could monitor up to 1,200 aerial or missile-related signals simultaneously, transforming it into a powerful observation hub capable of mapping complex technological environments. Location is the second crucial element in this story. The intelligence vessel has been operating near the entrance of the Strait of Hormuz, one of the most strategically important waterways on Earth. A substantial portion of the world's oil supply travels through this narrow maritime corridor each day, which means the surrounding waters host continuous commercial and technological activity. Just outside the strait lies the Gulf of Oman, a region where shipping routes, aviation corridors, and communication networks intersect. From a monitoring perspective, this area offers an exceptional vantage point. Signals transmitted by aircraft systems, radar installations, satellites, and navigation platforms can travel long distances across open ocean before weakening, making them easier to detect. This geographic advantage allows an intelligence ship equipped with long-range sensors to observe electronic activity across a remarkably large area. Analysts suggest the vessel's monitoring envelope may extend as far as 6,000 kilometers, covering a wide region that includes parts of the Arabian Sea, surrounding airspace, and several key technological corridors. Another element noted in open-source reports is that the vessel is operating alongside ships belonging to the People's Liberation Army Navy. Among them are advanced platforms such as the Type 055 destroyer and the Type 052D destroyer. Equally important is the legal context. The ship is positioned in international waters, an area governed by maritime law that allows vessels from many countries to operate freely. This means the monitoring mission can take place without entering the territorial waters of neighboring nations. In practice, this location also places the vessel close to several major aviation routes linking Europe, Asia, and the Middle East. The dense flow of aircraft signals and navigation transmissions further enriches the electronic environment that the ship can study. The result is a fascinating balance between technology, geography, and international regulations. From this location, Liaowang, one can quietly observe signals moving through one of the world's busiest technological corridors while remaining within globally recognized legal boundaries. The most valuable aspect of this deployment lies in the information it can generate. Observing real-world technological environments provides insights that controlled simulations cannot fully replicate. When aircraft systems, satellites, navigation platforms, and communication networks operate simultaneously across a busy region, they produce a complex web of electromagnetic signals. Monitoring these signals allows analysts to study patterns that reveal how advanced systems interact with each other. One area of interest involves aviation technology. Modern aircraft rely on radar systems, navigation equipment, and encrypted communication links that emit distinct electronic signatures. By tracking these signals over time, monitoring systems can identify flight corridors, operational frequencies, and coordination patterns between multiple platforms. Another category involves long-range navigation and telemetry signals. Satellites, maritime navigation systems, and high-altitude aircraft constantly exchange data with ground stations. Each transmission contributes to a broader digital landscape that can be analyzed to understand how regional technological networks function. Electronic interference and signal management are also important fields of study. Monitoring these emissions allows analysts to examine how different systems behave under real operational conditions. Over time, large datasets collected from these observations can help researchers refine detection algorithms, improve signal classification models, and better understand how complex technological ecosystems operate across air, sea, and orbital environments. It is important to emphasize that there is no confirmed evidence suggesting that information gathered by Liaowang is being shared with any external actor involved in regional tensions. Most experts interpret the mission primarily as a long-term observation effort designed to collect data for analysis. Even without immediate operational use, the insights gained from monitoring real electronic environments can influence future technological development. Understanding how signals propagate across large distances, how communication systems adapt to crowded environments, and how advanced sensors detect subtle electronic patterns can all contribute to scientific and engineering progress and long-term research innovation. The appearance of Liaowang, one in the Gulf of Oman, highlights a growing shift in how nations study technology and global systems. Instead of relying only on laboratory experiments or simulations, advanced monitoring platforms can observe real environments where aviation, navigation, satellites, and communications interact on a massive scale every day. By positioning a sophisticated intelligence vessel in such a strategic region, China gains access to valuable datasets about the electromagnetic landscape surrounding modern technology. What ultimately comes from those observations remains uncertain. Yet one thing is clear. In today's world, understanding complex information networks has become one of the most powerful technological advantages any nation can develop. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more updates on space exploration and scientific discoveries, and don't forget to leave a comment below. Also, you can visit our website, spaceinews.com. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.
talking about the kingdom, right? And asking people to wait for the Messiah. Maybe he's going to come and rescue them from the mess. All sorts of delusions Netanyahu is talking about now because Iran is hammering them. As a matter of fact, Iran just took down U.S. Air Force aircraft, refueling aircraft, and they confirmed that they expelled USS Abraham Lincoln. USS Abraham Lincoln is actually on the way back to the United States of America, according to confirmations coming from Iran. That's probably why they sent the USS Gerald R. Ford alongside George H.W. Bush now, making its way to the region, maybe to kind of just pose somewhere rather than come close to Iran and do something actually effective. But now the United States actually said, no, hold on a second now. We just lost it. US CENTCOM said that they are aware of a loss of a KC-135 refueling aircraft. The incident occurred in friendly airspace during Operation Epstein, Epic Fury. And rescue efforts are ongoing. They're dead, dude. They're all gone. 2 aircraft were involved in the incident. One of the aircraft went down in western Iraq, and the second landed safely. Lots of accidents happening lately. I wonder why. This was not due to hostile fire or friendly fire. Oh, okay. Was it an act of God? Okay. More information will be made available as the situation develops. Because we trust your verified sources, don't we now? We ask for continued patience to gather additional details and provide clarity for the families and service members. In case you're not comfortable with what the United States said, you just wait for the United States to clarify. You wait for the Epstein regime to clarify. At the end of the day, everything they say is true, isn't it? So let's wait for them. Let's wait for their confirmation. Now, what really happened here is that Iran actually took this refueling aircraft down, and it was confirmed by the Iranian Khatam al-Anbiya HQ spokesperson, who actually said that Iran took down an American refueling plane, was targeted and shot down in western Iraq by air defense systems, killing all crew members. So they're confirming a targeting and they're confirming a killing. Therefore, Iran took it down, and that's not the first time. You see, the first time they said it was in Kuwait, what did they say? They said, oh, friendly fire accident. The air defenses took down American fighter jets. What kind of air defense are we talking about here? The air defenses and the fighter jets, they have integrated systems. They recognize what's a friendly airplane and what's an enemy airplane. Doesn't get triggered, really. I mean, the chances of anything going wrong are hardly existent, if at all, with some of the systems, because some of them have multiple systems. And then three all at once. Well, people are having a lot of accidents. And now they're saying it's neither friendly fire nor enemy fire. So what is it then? It's probably what? Wind, or was the guy drunk? What happened? Did he do it deliberately? Did he commit suicide? What was it? Tell us. And of course, if you wanna hear the full story, you wait for CENTCOM to tell you the exact picture, because they never lie. They never lie, do they? Operation Epstein Fury. As if, we're gonna wait for them to tell us exactly what happened. Okay, what else is Iran doing? Well, they actually confirmed as well today that U.S. Abraham Lincoln is now withdrawing towards the United States after being targeted. Iran confirmed that they targeted it twice. They didn't say that they targeted it for the third time, according to what I remember from all of the statements so far. Firstly, they had two drone monitoring actions before the aggression started against Iran. One of them was reportedly taken down by the United States of America. Iran said it finished its mission successfully. They got the info and intel that they wanted. Then Iran launched 4 ballistic missiles. 4 ballistic missiles. After they launched them, it withdrew to 1,000 kilometers away from Iran, and then Iran tried to hunt them down again with drones this time. And now they're saying that the United States is actually taking them away. Did they make that decision now, or did they make that decision before? Well, chances are, if Iran targeted them before, by the way, that means they delayed the declaration, so it looks kind of less obvious. I mean, the United States didn't confirm that USS Abraham Lincoln is going anywhere. They didn't say anything yet, but the IRGC is telling you now. And by the way, to clarify here, there's a pattern of the United States doing that. They did the exact same thing in the Red Sea. Whenever they were withdrawing from the south to the north of the Red Sea following the attacks of Yemen on the aircraft carriers, they would replace the aircraft carrier and not declare that they have been attacked, although Yemen targeted them successfully, by the way. Substantial damage in one of them, whether it was Eisenhower or any of the other aircrafts of the United States at the time. And the United States then said, we're taking them for maintenance. And maintenance is a long story with aircraft carriers. It can take up to a year to finalize maintenance. But they did that before, so they delayed an announcement of a withdrawal, not to, raise suspicion that it was actually targeted. And clearly that's something that they might be doing now with Iran, because why not? I mean, why would they? Why would they declare that Stratotanker, the KC-135, was targeted, It's an embarrassment. Didn't Trump say we're winning? We're winning too much, it's not fair. It isn't fair how much they're winning. Dude, it doesn't look like you're winning. It looks like the Iranian supreme leader is teaching you one lesson after another, by the way. Doesn't look like you're winning at all. I mean, Donald Trump can claim that he finished, you know, there's no more targets left. But really and truly, Iran is untouched. Iran is untouched because they are still capable of conducting all of these attacks against the United States and Israel. And neither Netanyahu nor Trump have an answer, and they don't have options but to climb down the ladder. That's it. Trump initially saying that, okay, we finished all of the targets, it might be over soon. Then Benjamin Netanyahu now telling you, you know what? You know, we hurt them really bad, and, you know, we're going to keep hurting them bad, but, you know, the kingdom might be established soon, and, you know, you need to be patient and what have you. What are they planning to do? Something with Al-Aqsa, perhaps? Maybe they want to explode it. I mean, they haven't been allowing people in it for Ramadan regularly. So they might be trying to kind of set up this end of day scenario and try and drag kind of support from other delusional people. But on the ground, they're going to keep getting hammered because the Iranian supreme leader and the Iranian leadership told the American side there's a path of punishment, and that path of punishment needs to take its course. And before this punishment is concluded, there will be nothing. We will not be talking to you about anything at all. And then you have to pay. As in, you have to pay in full price. So all of the damage that Iran sustained has to be paid by America. And the supreme leader told them as well that we take the payment. And if we can't take the payment, we will ensure that there's enough damage to the United States equivalent to the damage that they had against Iran. That doesn't look like a big win to me. I mean, the Americans are feeling it in their pockets. Donald Trump is hoping to have something. Now he's realizing who he is actually dealing with. And it doesn't look like they know what they're doing actually on the ground. All the talks about having, you know, more attacks or more substantial attacks, Iran still hasn't shown its full cards. Iran still has a lot to play with. Yemen is still not in. The Iraqi resistance and the other resistance fronts haven't really gone all out. There's a lot more to do. And if we want to talk about infrastructure being targeted in Iran, that means that Israel will be completely wiped off, not only by Iran, but by other groups as well, Hezbollah in Lebanon too. You know, the strategic places haven't been, well, the strategic infrastructure places haven't been targeted yet, all of them. Some of them have been targeted, but not all of them. And that's very problematic. Israel knows that it's going to be attacked, likewise with the United States. And the United States wants to finish this as soon as possible, but Iran is telling them we're not going to actually finish as soon as possible. And do you know why, by the way? Iran, this is in Arabic, but I'll translate it for you, this is based on CBS News. Iran exported more than 1 million barrels of oil daily during the first 9 days of March. So the Hormuz Strait is shut. It's not shut on Iran. Iran's economy is functional. Iran's economy is functional. They're still selling oil to whoever they want, by the way. And guess what? Because Iran controls the Hormuz Strait and controls the exports and imports, listen to what can happen now. Countries that were not buying Iranian oil due to the illegal sanctions that were imposed by the United States will be more likely to buy Iranian oil now and tell the United States, well, I'm sorry, but there is no freedom of movement here. You and your sanctions can go to hell. Iran is still exporting its oil, and if I'm not going to get the Saudi oil or the Qatari oil or whatever, I'm going to get the Iranian oil. And one thing here, remember that very well, don't rule out that Iran would use that as leverage in the negotiations too. So there's no way that you're going to think of having any sort of sanctions with oil or anything, because we control the show now. They've been patient for too long. And the United States, despite the fact that they tried to get in over 6 aircraft oil tankers today through the Strait of Hormuz, that really didn't work very well. That really didn't work very well. Now, some of the top figures in Iran are mocking the situation, you know, the Epstein axis. Mohammad Baqir Qalibaf said that a few moments later, American families deserve to know why Trump is sacrificing their sons and daughters to advance Netanyahu's expansionist delusions. Hashtag Epstein axis. They do deserve to know. But again, you know, I'm not entirely sure that CENTCOM will be revealing the full information. I'm not really sure that they're going to do that. I think CENTCOM will be trying to hide this as much as possible. It's not in their interest to publish any of the truth. And like Israel isn't interested in publishing the damage and destruction that's happening in Tel Aviv, the United States wouldn't be interested in publishing the damage that's coming against its forces. I mean, look at what's happening in Israel. The Iranian missiles are, I mean, it's taking its toll. To be fair, life is hard at the moment. And the air defense systems of Israel aren't really functioning very well, to say the least. It's not working well. Probably because Iran blinded them by taking down all of the air defense systems. And now some Iranian accounts are hinting at what could have actually taken down the US fuel tanker in what clearly appears to be an Iranian move here. Whether it was in West Iraq or in other parts too, let's not forget that Iran has, you know, allies in Iraq, and they are capable of conducting operations. They are completely in line with Iran and what Iran is doing at the moment. And the United States doesn't have an answer, especially not with all of the situation. As now, let's go to Netanyahu. Netanyahu is talking about the Messiah and talking about the kingdom. You know, we will make it to the return of the Messiah, but this will not happen next Thursday. He's not sure that Iran, the Iranian establishment is going to be taken down. Why is he saying that now, Mr. Netanyahu? Netanyahu, who, by the way, didn't hide the fact that he's an atheist before. But, they'll use it whenever it's suitable. Typical Zionism, A non-Jew would create an ideology, and all of a sudden, bring Jews in, tell them, it's the Jews, and God promised us this and that, This entity, this thing that they worship, the real estate broker. I promised you this land yesterday, and I promised you that land tomorrow, and I'm going to promise you another land the day after. The real estate entity that they worship, and forget for any other part, by the way, 10 commandments and what have you, you can forget about that. Now he's resorting to all of this because he's facing a miserable situation. He's facing a miserable situation because the man is facing big trouble, and there are reports now that Trump and the United States are giving Benjamin Netanyahu and Israel 1 more week only, no more than 1 week to finish this whole situation. This was published in the Israeli Israel Hayom, reporting that, quoting it on, certain figures in the political establishment in the region, that Netanyahu has 1 week left. Now, if Netanyahu has 1 week left and Donald Trump is going to give him 1 week, what is Israel going to do in this time? And what is Trump going to do in this time? And are they going to be escalating with Iran, or are they going to try and use other means to achieve their delusional objectives inside of Iran? Well, chances are, even if Benjamin Netanyahu is granted a week, that doesn't mean that Iran is going to stop in a week. Who told you that Iran is going to stop in a week? You can think that, 1 week, but that doesn't have anything to do with you. The whole thing now depends on Iran. It doesn't depend on the United States and Israel. If it depended on the United States and Israel, they would have finished it from day one. They were hoping that they would be conducting an attack against Iran on day one, a big attack, and then all of a sudden they will subjugate Iran and make it a proxy state. People will come out and they will start kind of supporting and what have you. That didn't happen. Instead, we have a stronger Iran now. There is more resistance coming against Israel. Both the United States and Israel don't have an answer to the Iranian power, the Iranian response. They don't have an answer to the, regional scale response that's coming in, that they don't have an answer to, they don't have any way to take down. So what are they going to do exactly by that? And that source, who was quoted based on the Israeli Israel Hayom, said that the regime in Iran will not change. The US has set aside only a week to end the campaign. According to him, there must be an invasion of soldiers on the ground, or the demonstrations in Iran will resume. Talk about not knowing what the hell you're doing, which he does not think will happen in the near future. Also, criticism in the government. That's coming in Israel. So, in effect, they're talking about Donald Trump giving Netanyahu only 1 week. This political source from the region told the Israel Hayom editorial team that the US wants to end the campaign in Iran and has given Israel only 1 week to do so. In addition, the same source estimates that the regime in Tehran will not change, because in order to do so, change must be an invasion of soldiers on the ground, or demonstrations will resume, which does not seem likely to happen in the near future. The demonstrations are there, It's just that it's not the type of demonstrations that, the Epstein regime and Zionistan want. Or you can call the United States Zionistan as well, it's fine. From a terminology perspective, it's fine. Or you can choose the Epstein axis, whatever you prefer. The same source added as well, they were talking about Lebanon too. The issue of Hezbollah, and Hezbollah saying that although Israel eliminated Hezbollah's former Secretary General Hassan Nasrallah, the organization is still on its feet, as is the organization Hamas. So both Hamas and Hezbollah are on their feet. Whoa, thought you eliminated them like a long time ago. All right. He said that Israel is mistaken in not exhausting the diplomatic channel after the military achievements it has achieved. Massive achievements, you know, slaughtering children. And the countries in the region can assist in this, he said. Regarding the Qatar issue, the same source said that the Arab countries see Qatar as a sister country. It should be noted that this is a significant change in the attitude of the countries of the region towards Qatar, as it considered a country that played a double game, according to them. Okay, what is the short moral of the story here? Is that the United States is giving Israel only 1 week. Is someone saying this message? Iran is seeing this message, of course. Do they care? Absolutely not. 100%. They couldn't care less about what Israel and the United States want or plan to do in terms of continuation of the campaign, when they're going to stop it or whatever it is. Iran has something in its mind, and that thing is punish Israel and the United States of America. And the pattern, by the way, is just a pattern of escalation. So, for example, there were multiple attacks coming from the Iraqi resistance against the American forces in the region in the past 3 hours. And these attacks, according to multiple sources, targeted the Erbil airport, the Victoria base. 3 times they targeted the occupation bases in Erbil, downing and destroying 2 heavy American aircraft, destroying a French helicopter. And 6 French soldiers were injured, according to them. The death of 6 soldiers, pilots, or officers in the aerial refueling aircraft incident. So that is the resistance that is tied with Iran. In essence, we're talking about the IRGC. The IRGC foreign operations. Why is that? It's because, again, they didn't say the whole thing. They didn't really mention everything that they were going to do. And they still had a lot of cards in their hands. Now, the fact that the United States, is saying that there is a loss there proves that something happened. But then again, they're not going to be telling you the whole story, because the whole story is, the full picture is, it was taken down. Like how these 3 aircrafts were taken down as well from Kuwait. That is no coincidence. Way too many coincidences if we're going to start talking about, coincidence here, coincidence there. Refueling tanker, that is targeted. Iran has the weapons to do that. The Iraqi resistance has the weapons to do that. They have the weapons to do that. And again, they published information about their operations that they conducted in the past couple of days, in which they're showing their capabilities. So that is a heavier cost now for the United States, although they are actually deploying heavier bombers. So the United Kingdom, of course, is supporting these acts of aggression against Iran by allowing American usage of British bases to be used. They were recorded deploying B-1 bombers today, loading them and going to West Asia, most likely to, of course, prepare to target Iran. So that is only going to escalate things further. Because, again, from an Iranian perspective, you saw what happened today in the past 3 hours in Iraq, all of these attacks. And the United States is trying to counter-attack now in Iraq. They attacked 2 bases in the past 48 hours. Again, however, without any sort of results, because they're not stopping the attacks coming against them. Likewise with what's happening in Lebanon with the Lebanese resistance against Israel. So the Iranian side and the resistance axis, they haven't really exhausted their full capability and potential against the Epstein axis. And Iran, by the way, they also published the recent Operation Wave 43 from True Promise 4. Have a look.
It'll never stop.
Conveniently launching all of these missiles, and now not only these missiles and this aircraft carrier, of course, the USS Abraham Lincoln. Now that's, again, a story on its own. The IRGC are confirming that USS Abraham Lincoln is making its way to the United States of America. It's going back after being hit and after it sustained a lot of damage. How do they know that? These aircraft carriers, and of course planes too, they can shut down their GPS systems and their radar systems so that they're not detected and no one can see them. But that doesn't mean that Iran or some friends of Iran too don't have capabilities to monitor these either warships or aircraft carriers or what have you, to continue and attack them and target them wherever they are. Because how did Iran launch its second wave of attacks against them? When they were trying to go all stealth mode, they still have detection. As a matter of fact, when USS Abraham Lincoln was making its way from the South China Sea to the Arabian Sea, there was an Iranian oil tanker behind it the whole time to, physically be there, assist it. Maybe, someone, I don't know, maybe the toilets fail. So Iran sent an oil tanker behind them in case, someone needs to go to the toilet or what have you. So Iran has the capacity to monitor them. Now they're saying they're going back to the United States. Did the US know that there was damage high to a level where they need to take it back to the United States and they didn't tell us? I mean, it would have been a shame if they haven't told us. Why are they not being truthful like that? I mean, it's unusual, isn't it, for the American establishment not to be truthful and you know, clear. So that means that Iran is targeting them really badly, by the way, in the sea, in the air, in the land. All of the bases are gone. The damage in Israel is expanding. And all of that with Iran still releasing, exporting over 1 million barrels a day. 1 million barrels a day ever since they shut down the Hormuz Strait from March the 1st up until March the 9th. In some ways, it's similar to the situation of Russia, by the way. You know, the Russian ruble went up after they began this operation. And after they cut all of the oil and gas from Russia, of course, the people paid the price. Likewise, the people in America now are paying the price, not just in Europe, for the adventures of pedophiles, basically. Because psychopathic pedophiles are running the show, and one of them is blackmailing the other and what have you. And they have their satanic ideas going around. So that's why they're talking about ending it now in 1 week and what have you. 1 week. 1 week, you don't dictate anything. Iran has a course of action to take place. They've done some of it. You know, the supreme leader in his first statement today, first speech, he said, some of that revenge has been achieved, but not all of it. Is the United States going to continue getting hammered and battered and humiliated like that? Netanyahu is looking very, very nervous, by the way, today in his speech. Very nervous and shaky and what have you. What was he thinking exactly? What was going in his head? Even his psychologist wife couldn't help him conceal his emotions in his recent speech. So it must have been really bad. He knows that Israel and the United States are failing miserably. He probably heard certain things from the United States that he didn't want to hear. Now you may think, well, what is the exit here from Trump's side? If he is being blackmailed into it, how is he going to get himself out of it if Netanyahu wants him to continue? And what are the other options? Well, from Trump's perspective, he would tell Netanyahu, this is what you had. Behind closed doors, both of them know the damage. The damage that the United States bases sustained in West Asia, in the Arab states, the hosting countries, affects Israel immediately. So it's hitting home. And although in Israel, they're celebrating this attack, they're loving it, almost everyone is supporting it completely, the United States isn't the same. The fact of the matter is the calculations of America, of the United States of America and Israel are different. They differ greatly. From an Israeli perspective, it's like existence and Iran and, you know, the head of the snake and the axis of the resistance, and we need to, you know, cut their arms and what have you. And what happened? Iran is maiming the United States in the region. The surgery is going ahead. All of the cancer cells are being removed. Israel has 30 seconds instead of 12 minutes to know if an Iranian Fattah or Khurram Shah or something is going to land on their child-killing heads. They used to have prior knowledge. 10 to 12 minutes is a long time for a child killer to know that a missile is coming to hit his head. But now the child killers only have 30 seconds. 30 seconds to hide, 30 seconds to run, 30 seconds to all of that. It's not a long time. So Netanyahu understands basically that this situation isn't really going to be sustainable. First and foremost, Trump is, people can show him that really there is no popular support. I mean, Trump himself probably didn't want this from the beginning, but again, you know, Trump is a pathological liar, a narcissistic psychopath, and a murderer. And according to the Epstein files, a pedophile, child rapist, an abuser, and potentially a killer too of children. That's Epstein, by the way, apart from the wars and his, you know, his hands that are full of blood because of the genocide in Gaza and all of the Zionist barbarism taking place now, because they're taking advantage of the goy of Washington alongside other Americans who are dying for the sake of the expansion of the state of Israel. But he will know eventually. There's something that they project and there's something that they know. Outside, they try and project power, you know. Netanyahu will be, you know, telling in his hands and projecting, and Pete Hegseth with the Epstein Fury campaign. Behind closed doors, they know the stats. I mean, you can't act dumb in front of statistics at the end of the day, can you? You can't really act dumb when we all can see the satellite images of your bases being flattened. I mean, how much do you want to act dumb? You can lick Zionist boots as much as you want. It's up to you, really. Get money, be bribed. It's your life. But I mean, lying like that to the public blatantly, thinking that people can be fooled by all of this garbage and nonsense of you guys 24/7, that isn't going to happen, I'm afraid. And the more this goes on, the more fierce the American resistance to this war is. And I'm talking about the American people, the American public. Firstly, their navy is getting hit now. Fuel tankers are getting hit and downed by Iran. More servicemen are dying. I mean, AKA terrorists, by the way. Every participant in this, anyone who makes this easier, anyone who supports any of this, by the way, is a child killer. They murder children. Even if they like to deny these facts, by the way, claim, oh yeah, we didn't know. That's what you're doing. But the biggest problem that they face now is the fact that they don't have the final say. So the United States can tell Netanyahu that, look, you have 7 days. They might try and have an exit plan, but it will not be determined by them. It will not be based on their timeline. 100% will not be based on their timeline, because they're losing. They're losing on the ground. They don't have the upper hand. They don't have nothing. Despite all of these attacks and that they've conducted in Iran, all of their targets now are civilian targets. Hospitals, civilian buildings. I mean, they started attacking schools from the beginning anyway. Iran is capable of inflicting so much damage and pain and strategic hits, escalating further and further, taking down fighter jets, taking down aircrafts, expelling the aircraft carrier from the region. They wanted to take it down so badly. I mean, they'd probably try and chase it to take it down and make it sink. And that's why the United States is taking it up, because they saw the Iranian determination. Iran was hell-bent on sinking the USS Abraham Lincoln, or another aircraft carrier, by the way. So all of that is leading to these statements coming from, firstly, Trump. The blame game began in the United States. You know, Pete Hegseth told me and Marco Rubio and some garbage, nonsensical Trump mouthpieces are trying to say that actually that's why he was fooled into it. Stop throwing garbage to it. Stop spewing propaganda 24/7. He's the president of the United States of America at the end of the day. Blackmailed or not blackmailed or whatever, his decisions, they have the impact. He is the decision maker. So he's the one responsible at the end of the day. You can't say that, oh, he's being dragged, he's being fooled. It doesn't work like that, I'm afraid. He's the decision maker, regardless of why he's making the decision. And he killed children and continues to do so and brags about it. And he even repeats the same propaganda about Iran that the Zion neocons in the United States constantly repeat. This broken record 24/7. They're not going to have the final say. Iran is going to have the final say. It's going to be very humiliating, that's for sure. Whether the United States will accept this humiliation or not, it depends if they want to cut their losses. Because if they want to continue down this path, the losses are only going to increase more and more. One day, look what happened today. A refueling tanker. That's humiliating. Every day more assets get targeted. Every day more raiders. Every day more bases. Every day more people get killed. They're still targeting American officers and personnel everywhere. Every single place, hotel, second floor, 70th floor, they will get the info, they'll land a drone. Wherever they are, airport, hotel, I don't know, whatever it is. And in terms of the personnel, the United States is paying a heavy price. Israel is trying to conceal the level of losses, but the United States is paying a very heavy price. So these were the main things that took place. A lot of developments, and a lot is happening and will be continuing to happen, by the way, will continue to happen during the night, because there would likely be another wave that we will hopefully talk about tomorrow. And you know, the responses, probably more evidence as well about the recent attacks that took place both from Iran and the Iraqi resistance to do with this refueling tanker of the United States of America. These statements that are coming from Netanyahu now. So we'll wrap it up here, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in to another live stream. Thank you so much for everyone who sent supers, everyone who participated in the chat. Much appreciated. In the meantime, everyone, stay blessed, take care, and I will see you soon in the next video. Peace, everyone. Salam. Right now, misinformation spreads faster than facts, especially on the most
There's now growing talks about seizing Iran's Karg Island, which will reportedly handles somewhere between 80 to 90% of Iran's oil shipments. If the Americans would go through with this, it appears to be, well, essentially the nuclear option in terms of.
Revolutionary salute to our brother Vincent Brown, Scott, for the donation to the war chest. Revolution is way of life. Absolutely appreciate the love, family. Salute.
Trying to shut down the Iranian economy, which then begs the question: what do you think is the likely Iranian response if the US would go down this path? Because I'm guessing they fear a response. Otherwise, they would have already either attacked it or attempted to seize it.
I just built a budgeting app. What? How? Base 44. Look, it pulls all our expenses into one place and breaks.
Well, first of all, thank you very much. Sorry, thank you very much for inviting me. I think it's quite clear that it would be a major problem just accessing the island because the United States would have to use the territory of these or fly over territory of the Arab family dictatorships in the Persian Gulf. And that would mean that Iran would have to retaliate. So if Iranian territory is occupied, then that takes the war uh, towards a major escalation. And so these regimes would have to pay a very heavy price, far greater than what they are paying now. But for the United States, it would be very difficult because the islands are well protected and also Iranian assets on the shore would be there to support the islanders and the people on the island and the defense capabilities there. And it's far away from the U.S. Navy, and it is closer to the Iranian shore. But most importantly, I think, is the futility of such uh, an aggression. This aggressive move would not change the status of the Persian Gulf region. It would not change the situation in the Strait of Hormuz. Iran has shut the Strait of Hormuz, and therefore nothing can leave or enter the strait without Iran's permission. The strait is not formally shut, but ships that want to pass through have to gain permission. And so an aggressive act by the United States against an island, a territory of the Islamic Republic of Iran, would mean fierce combat. It would mean that the countries that were used to enable such an aggression would be severely punished. And we have to remember Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, the Emirates, Bahrain, Qatar, these are largely deserts. All they have is oil or gas. They don't even have water. They have desalination plants. So they're completely vulnerable to Iranian retaliation. And then again, as I said, it's not going to change the, let's say if the Americans carry out such an operation and succeed in taking the island, hypothetically, it's not going to change the global energy market for the better. It will make it worse because Iran's retaliation will include the destruction of assets of these countries that are engaged in cooperating in the invasion of Iranian territory. So, and that would mean long-term damage because we have two issues here. One is that the Strait of Hormuz is more or less closed. So there is every day 20 million barrels of oil are not reaching the global markets, and gas and fertilizer and everything else alongside that. So every day this is happening. But if there's war in the Persian Gulf, those installations will be destroyed. And that means that even if they open the Strait of Hormuz later on after some sort of agreement, there will be no oil, there will be no gas to transport, and there will be no tankers to do the transporting. So it would be a ridiculous move, logistically very difficult, if not almost impossible. And Iranian defenses, of course, would be taking for destroying a lot of the U.S. military capabilities. And it would be futile and it would actually it would be more than futile. It would be very detrimental because of the long-term effects that it would have on the global markets. What should we make though of the reports of Iran mining the Strait of Hormuz? Because this would also then prevent Iranian ships, I would assume, to some extent, and as well as friendly nations' ships to transit through the strait. Do you know anything about this operation? Iran hasn't mined the Strait of Hormuz or the Persian Gulf or the Indian Ocean. That is all nonsense. Most are of the Iranian Navy, which can be used in the time of war, is in underground tunnels. There are speedboats, very uh, powerful weapons that can be used for asymmetrical warfare. And Iran has published some footage of these tunnels. It's sort of like the underground missile bases and the underground drone bases. So you have speedboats both inside the Persian Gulf and outside in very large quantities, with sea to surface missiles, sea to sea missiles that can destroy anything in the Persian Gulf region and outside of the Persian Gulf. These are all underground and well protected. The Americans can't touch them. And Iran's capability to mine the Persian Gulf region are also underground, so they're all safe. But Iran has not moved in that direction. Iran does not want escalation. I'm sure your audience knows this, but from the very beginning, the Iranians negotiated. Even though the negotiations, even if the negotiations had failed, the United States had no right to attack Iran and to murder Iranians. But Iran was negotiating and the United States attacked Iran, even though the Omani foreign minister said that progress was made. And basically, the claims that Trump made, Iran said to the U.S. negotiators, meaning his son-in-law and his best friend, who are both Zionists, he said that he quoted them saying that the Iranians at the negotiating table said that we want to build nuclear weapons, which is ridiculous for two reasons. One is that fortunately the negotiations were indirect. So Iran has witnesses. And one witness is the Omani foreign minister, who when he went to the United States and did interviews said nothing of the sort. So obviously either Trump is lying or his real estate buddies are lying. The second is that Iran has always said we're not developing nuclear weapens and that our peaceful program is peaceful. And we have a fatwa. And the IAEA has been consistent, at least in saying that there's no evidence that Iran has ever at any point tried to make a nuclear weapon. And even the CIA admits, U.S. intelligence admits that at least after 2003, that Iran's nuclear program has always been peaceful. So why in the world would the Iranian negotiators go and tell their enemy that wants to bomb and kill them, that threatens them, that we want to make nuclear weapons at the negotiating table? It's obviously a foolish lie, and only the most naive supporters of the MAGA cult would believe otherwise. So I think it's clear as day that the Iranians did not want escalation, and they do not want escalation. So as we speak, for example, the gas facilities in Doha and in Qatar, they're all prepared to restart if there is peace. The oil can again flow if there is peace. And most of the tankers that did not violate Iran's directions, those tankers can move and take oil and gas out of the Persian Gulf region once there is peace. So there's not a chance in the world that under these circumstances, Iran will however, if the United States escalates, if they start trying to destroy our key infrastructure, our gas installations, our oil installations, our electricity, then everything, all bets are off, and Iran will retaliate. Iran can hurt them far more than they can hurt Iran, because U.S. assets and the assets of its proxies on the other side of the Persian Gulf are enormous, and they will be destroyed. So this is sort of a type of mutual assured destruction, a type of MAD. If they go after us, we'll go after them. But we don't want to do this, but we're prepared to do so. Another thing, Glenn, that I wanted to point out, even though it's not linked to your question, but I think it's very important. We all remember U.S. and Israeli assessments and what we've been told in the media that Iran has a certain number of missiles. Well, we're seeing that Iran has been firing missiles 24 hours a day at multiple bases. Both Israeli regime's assets and U.S. regime assets are being targeted. So what this shows is that Mossad and CIA and MI6 intelligence is very poor. That they actually know much less about Iran than they pretend. So they're constantly telling the world how they know everything and how they're the best at gathering information, and these are the most competent intelligence gathering organizations in the world. But Iran's military offensive capabilities is the most important thing that Iran has in this conflict, that is linked to this conflict. And they are clueless about it. And Iran is firing, and they keep saying their launchers are running out, their missiles are running out, their drones are running out. They've been saying it for 2 weeks now, almost 2 weeks now. But Iran continues to strike, and Iran says it's prepared to take this war till after the midterm elections.
Oh, that is quite interesting, and that's one of the weak points of Trump as well. Not just the running out of weapons and the economic problems and the energy, but also, of course, the politics at home. Regarding the Strait of Hormuz, though, the U.S. Energy Secretary said that the U.S. Navy, after getting many requests, is not yet ready to escort tankers through the Strait of Hormuz, and we were also told that they are currently studying options how to get tankers through the Strait of Hormuz. What is the main challenge, and is it even feasible at this point? Because I guess, well, my first thought was that Trump made a big deal out of sinking ships from the Iranian Navy, but it doesn't seem like the Iran needs large navy in order to close the Strait of Hormuz. So what do you see as being the main challenges? I mean, as they're now sitting, that is the U.S. Energy Secretary sitting around the table studying options for how to get these tankers through the Strait of Hormuz. What are the problems they're running into?
It will be impossible for them to do that. First of all, there's the Iranian Navy. The bulk of the Navy, the important part of the Navy that would be used in time of war, is all the speedboats are all in huge tunnels underground. Then there's the mines that can be used. Then there are the surface to sea missiles that can be used. Then there's, of course, the short range missiles, but also the medium range missiles and medium range drones, and then the long range missiles and drones and the cruise missiles. Iran can target the Strait of Hormuz from anywhere in Iran. So how is the United States going to open it? And then
if when there's open war, then Iran is going to retaliate and it's going to punish those regimes in the region that are hosts to U.S. bases at a higher, with a higher degree of intensity. So you open, let's say hypothetically, you do open the Strait of Hormuz, which is impossible, virtually. It's just like the issue of the island, the Khark Island. So hypothetically you open it, but if there's no more oil, if there are no more petrochemicals, if there's no more gas, and if there are no more ships, then what's the purpose? You lose hundreds, if not thousands of men. You lose significant parts of your Navy, and then you drive up the price of energy permanently. In other words, there's no a solution, an agreement that will ultimately come will not save the global economy then. If the United States is forced to accept, and it will be forced to accept Iran's terms for peace, then the oil can flow now. But if the United States intensifies the war, then what would be the long-term effects? It would be catastrophic for the world. It's already becoming catastrophic. People don't yet understand what's coming. But hopefully, countries across the world, the international community, public opinion in the West, and sense the British government is helping the U.S. use heavy bombers to slaughter Iranians. People in Europe have to force their governments to change, and the United States have to do so. People across the world have to put pressure on the United States. That's how the war will end. But other than that, things are, as I said, things will be as I said they will be.
Yeah, well, I see that Trump already gave something of a victory speech, saying that the war has already been won. On the other hand, he can't really deliver a convincing victory and pull back with his, head held up high, unless the Strait of Hormuz is open. Because if this is closed, any declaration of victory as the U.S. pulls back doesn't really make much sense. So Trump, for this reason, he also warned much more destruction. I think he said 20 times more destruction if this strait is not opened. However, he also said that the U.S. has run out of targets to strike. So it kind of begs the question: what do you think, or what do you expect from the American side now? Because it seems if there's no good military targets anymore to hit, but they have to escalate to go up the ladder in order to try to compel Iran to do as America demands. What do you think is the action plan on the American side?
Well, they're already doing it. They're already striking non-military targets. They did it from the first hour when they slaughtered those girls and those children and in the elementary school. And only after a week, the New York Times, under pressure, began to expose the truth. Not because the New York Times has any morality or any shame. No, we all knew it had happened on day one. The world knew by day three. But they have to. When people in the United States are seeing it on social media, someone has to do something. And of course, an opponent of Trump would obviously begin that. So they've been slaughtering people very regularly, and it's premeditated. They know exactly what they're doing. The targets that they struck in Tehran today, yesterday, the day before, last night, these were civilian targets. These are ordinary families. They bomb homes. They slaughter kids, women. It's intentional.
When I started my record label, the business side of things, taxes, finances, definitely.
So, but what Trump could do is he could take it further. He could start trying to destroy Iranian key infrastructure like oil, gas, electricity, and so on. But that would mean Iran would do the same. That would mean that there would be no more electricity on the other side of the Persian Gulf. And that would definitely lead to the collapse of those regimes. Iran would not collapse. We've seen how united the people are. Anyone who has been looking at Iranian social media accounts
inside Iran, they'll know that people are on the streets every day and every night in huge numbers, under fire. As missiles strike close by, they don't budge. There's ample evidence of this. Anyone can go and see this on check Iranian accounts or press TV or whoever. I don't do this because it's just too difficult for me to just constantly download footage of people in different neighborhoods in Tehran or different cities. And then as the bombs explode nearby, they continue chanting, women, men, they don't budge. So Iran is going to stay put and it will rebuild itself. But these proxies on the other side of the Persian Gulf, they'll be swept away. Those regimes, they have no legitimacy in the eyes of the people under their thumb. So, and it would end the global economy. The U.S. economy would collapse. So if they destroy Iran's infrastructure, the infrastructure in the United States may not be bombed, but when the energy crisis hits, it doesn't matter if it's bombed or not. Most of it will become useless because the economy will collapse. So hopefully the United States won't do that. It won't be stupid enough to make or immoral. Well, they're utterly immoral. But the Trump regime will hopefully have sense enough not to do that. But the very fact that he says this, Len, tells you a lot. It shows a lot. He's not only about Iran, he said this about Cuba. If you recall, when the Supreme Court voted against his tariffs, he got very angry. And in a press conference said that I can just, destroy countries, but I can't put tariffs, like a $1 tariff. No one in the Western media went and called him out and said, what do you mean you can destroy countries? I think at that moment he was talking about Cuba. And then here he says he'll destroy Iran so that it can never recover. And there's no outrage, whether it's the Guardian or the Washington Post or the Los Angeles Times or none of them, because the media is owned and controlled by the oligarchs, by the Epstein class. Their journalists have no sense of morality. So they can talk about destroying nation after nation, and there's no shock in the media. So I think, ever since Gaza, they've revealed themselves. But every day that goes by, it becomes more clear, and even the naive begin to wake up. Unless those who, except for those who want to, they're like cult members of MAGA or whatever, everyone else is seeing the truth.
Well, I saw a speech by the Israeli Foreign Minister, Gideon Saar, who was, well, it looked as if, it's been interpreted in different ways, but it looked like he was climbing down from the very high objectives being put forth. So it wasn't going to be an endless war, and they will make a decision to when to end it, mutually with the United States. How do you assess the Israeli and the American position now in terms of what they want out of this war, what they can achieve, and when they want to put an end to it?
Glenn, again, you know this better than I, and so does your audience. But ever since the genocide in Gaza began, and the slaughter in Lebanon, and the escalation in the West Bank, and the coming to power of Al-Qaeda in Syria, and it being openly a regime affiliated to the Trump regime, and people are, and the Israeli regime, people are waking up to the reality that Zionism is evil, that Zionism is a problem. Americans have turned against Zionism in the United States. The youth have turned against it, and others are turning against it. So as the price of oil goes up, as the price of energy goes up, and life becomes more difficult, who are the people going to blame for their personal financial problems that are going to get worse and worse by the day in the weeks and months ahead? Who are they going to blame? They're going to blame Trump. They're going to blame Netanyahu. They're going to blame the Zionist lobby. They're going to blame the Israeli firsters. They're going to blame the neocons. So this is a catastrophic calculation. All since October the 7th has been one, and we discussed this before. I've always said that the biggest defeat that the Israeli regime has suffered is the destruction of its image. They've not succeeded on the battlefield, by the way. Remember, they always say how Hezbollah has been defeated. Look at what's happening now. Look at how the resistance in Lebanon is hammering the Israeli regime. And we have to remember that the Lebanese resistance has been making these sacrifices for the people of Gaza to stop the genocide. Their fight has been for another people. Even though we have the project and everyone of the resistance in Lebanon is extraordinary. But in any case, I always said back then, and I continue to believe, that the greatest defeat of the Israeli regime has been the destruction of its image and credibility, and the fact that it's increasingly being seen across the world as illegitimate. So if you add public misery and blame for that public misery being attributed to Zionism, how does that help the Israelis? What impact does that have on the influence of the Zionist lobby in the United States? So ultimately, if I was on the Israeli side, God forbid, or with Trump, God forbid, I would be saying, end this war yesterday. End it. This is catastrophic. Not only are you losing the war, because every day that Iran strikes back, people across the world are seeing Iran as heroic. People are increasingly interested in Iran. And they see that the empire is much weaker than they had envisaged. They thought the United States was this invincible power. Now they see that the United States and this collective coalition against Iran is failing. But, that aside, as the economic crisis hits harder, things are going to get a lot worse for the Israeli regime and the its backers in the West. And I think that the destruction of the end, how should I phrase it? The influence of the Zionist lobby, the decline of its influence will be far more rapid as a result of this war. And the longer this war lasts, the more rapid that decline and fall will be.
Well, I was wondering, what do you see as the risks of, I guess, Iran being too successful? I was watching some comments by Professor John Mersheimer, and he was making the point that if the Israelis believe that they're going for a massive strategic defeat, that it's quite possible that they would contemplate using a nuclear weapon to essentially pressure or force Iran into capitulation. Do you see this being part of Iran's calculation, that this is a possible direction? I mean, this is, I guess, one of the challenges in the nuclear wars. If one defeats a nuclear power too severely, this is a risk one is running. Do you see this challenge as well?
This is, let me break this down into a couple of parts. First of all, if the Israeli regime uses a nuclear weapon, the very fact that that is contemplated shows how immoral and brutal and genocidal and evil the regime is. The very fact that anyone can contemplate that they would use such a weapon, it just tells us everything about the regime itself. Second of all, if the regime actually used a nuclear weapon against anyone, I think that would be the end of the regime. And third of all, if they did use a nuclear weapon, then that would basically be telling everyone, build your own nuclear weapons. And that's what they'll be telling the Iranians to do. And the Israeli regime is very small.
Jen Spark, give me the day off. I'm skipping work today. You should too, Stu.
But ultimately, Glenn, this war for Iran is a defensive war and a fight for survival. We are not going to accept any threat. We're not going to submit to any threat and accept the destruction of our country because someone is threatening us. That is, that is why we're fighting today. Trump has already said that he will destroy the Iran and it'll never recover. He can do that. So what? Do we capitulate? No, because we are an independent nation. We have dignity. We have honor. Why do we fight? Because we are on the right side of history. Our sin for the last 47 years has been that we've been saying, stop killing Palestinians, stop the ethnic cleansing. As human beings, as Muslims, as Shias, we have to support the oppressed. We are willing to face martyrdom for that. We cherish life more than anyone else. That's why we support the Palestinians. That's why we support victims across the world, because their lives are valuable to us. But we're willing to make the ultimate sacrifice to retain our dignity and honor. That is our obligation. So we are not going to be intimidated by the United States or the Israeli regime. But the use of nuclear weapons will change the planet. And it will, one way or another, lead to the swift destruction of the Israeli regime.
Just a last question. You mentioned before that it will likely, well, that there's not that many pathways to peace, but of course, that peace is the ultimate goal. Where do you see your overall assessment of this war? Where is it heading, and under what condition do you think it's possible to put an end to it? Because as I started saying, it looks like this is going to be a long war, and the U.S. feels it has to come out, looking victorious. Iran seemingly can't afford to allow the United States to come back every 6 months and bomb it until it finally gets it right. So it's very difficult, it seems, for both sides here to put an end to it. So what do you see as being the possible conditions for peace?
Well, again, I'm just speaking in general terms, and I don't have any details about what the Iranian position is. But first of all, it will go beyond just Iran. There will have to be a change in the way in which the Palestinians in Gaza are being treated. Lebanon's sovereignty will have to be respected. The so-called ceasefires will have to be respected in full. So the Israeli regime will have to leave Lebanon. They'll have to abide by the agreements in Gaza in full. No more murders and assassinations. No more killing kids on a daily basis in Gaza and Lebanon. So it will not just be Iran. But the threat of war against Iran will have to be dealt with. No piece of paper that the U.S. president signs is of any value to us, because we've already negotiated twice and he already betrayed the negotiations. So the facts on the ground will have to change. And part of that will be in the Persian Gulf region. U.S. bases will no longer be these centers of threat against Iran. That won't be tolerated anymore. And so the regimes in the Persian Gulf region, their policies will have to change. They will also have to pay full compensation for everything that has happened. That will happen without a doubt. Doesn't matter who pays that compensation. Someone will pay. So these regimes, they are already being severely harmed, but they will pay. They will pay that compensation. So this is not just, this is about Iran's long-term security. We will not accept a situation where the Trump regime goes and rearms and attacks again. And by the way, because this was discussed many times before, and I didn't speak about this earlier in the previous months because I didn't think it was appropriate. But after the 12-day war, many were saying, why did Iran accept a ceasefire? It could have just continued. The reason why Iran accepted the ceasefire, even though it was winning the war, and it didn't accept it on day one, it continued striking for like 3 or 4 days. I don't know exactly how long. And then it accepted a halt in hostilities. But the reason was that during the 12-day war, even though Iran gradually gained the upper hand and was winning, Iran knew that if the war continued, the United States would have an incentive to enter the war and bring in all these weapon systems that they brought. And Iran recognized that while they were doing well, relatively speaking, they had many shortcomings. Therefore, they decided to end the hostilities and prepare themselves for the big war. And so for the last 8-9 months, the Iranians have been working 24 hours a day. And now, even though the combined firepower is much bigger than from the enemy, is much greater than it was during the 12-day war, the number of launchers that have been destroyed are much lower. The number of martyrs in the military, much lower. And Iran was able to, this time around, remove its key assets from bases, and so most of these strikes were on empty buildings. So Iran had to prepare itself for something much bigger than this Israeli regime. The Israeli regime is not a threat to Iran. And if ever any strength that it has is given to it by the West because they support this racism and ethno-supremacism. But the United States is a real threat. And so the 12-day war was an excellent opportunity for Iran to figure out what it has to do. And they've been preparing themselves, and now we see the success. So ultimately, there will have to be an end to this. But it will be in a way in which Iran feels that in the years to come, its people are safe. And its allies across the region, they get security. Those regimes that hosted U.S. bases, they're guilty. They have to compensate. I mean, Glenn, let's say I gave this example last night to George Galloway. Let's say France gives bases to the Russians, and the Russians attack the UK. Let's say the Canadians give bases to the Chinese, and they attack the United States. And then Canada and France say we're neutral. Is anyone in the UK or the United States going to accept that argument? Right now, B-2 bombers are being prepared in the UK every day to carry out heavy strikes on Iran. And they target ordinary people. Those underground missile bases and drone bases and those factories are untouchable. So because the fighter jets are not very effective, since they have to, because of Iran's drone and missile capabilities and anti-air defenses, but mostly it's drone and missile capabilities, they have to be stationed very far from Iran. So when they fly, they have to refuel, come back, get to Iran, and then go back, refuel. Very expensive, not very and not very effective. So now they're increasingly using these long-range bombers, which are also very expensive. But the ammunition, that they drop is quite a lot, and it devastates people. The British are part of this war. They are murdering children. The British regime is a child-killing regime. So that was just a footnote. It wasn't linked to the broader argument. But the point is that all those regimes that are involved in this war are guilty. They have Iranian blood on their hands. But these Persian Gulf regimes are our neighbors. They betrayed us once in the 1980s. They all supported Saddam Hussein, gave him hundreds of billions of dollars back then, which was worth a lot more than what it is now, to kill Iranians. After the war and after the invasion of Kuwait by Saddam, Iranians forgave them and tried to establish better ties. This time around, it's not going to end like that. They will have to compensate.
So just one last question of this. Do you see any possibilities for Iran, though, to retaliate against countries like Britain who participates in this war? Or is that, I guess, a bridge too far?
Well, I think that in future, their presence in our region is going to be diminished. It won't allow it anymore. Europe and the United States, their presence in our region will be diminished. There's no doubt about that. But one thing that I should add here, and I think it's important for your audience to know, is that all this talk about drones in the United States and the Iranians, these are all lies. The same people who carried out 9/11, I used to be one of those who didn't believe I thought it was just Al-Qaeda. The same people who use Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan and in New York and in Syria and in Libya, the same people may try to carry out an attack in the United States. That will definitely be a false flag operation. They're losing the war, the Zionists, and so they need something. And the only thing that I can think of is for them to carry out God forbid, a major attack against civilians in the United States, to change the mood among ordinary Americans, to convince them that the war against Iran is justified and has to continue. So if anything happens in the West, and in particular in the United States, there's not a doubt in my mind that it will have been carried out by the Zionists or the Zionist regime or someone affiliated to them or some naive fool or a group of naive fools that have been manipulated by them.
Yeah, just a quick correction to what you said before. You said Iran had negotiated twice. Actually, it was 3 times. It also signed the JCPOA. So it's I can see I can understand the declining trust in the diplomacy. But I know, it's not easy over there in Tehran at the moment. So thank you very much for taking the time.
Thank you very much, Glenn. It's always a great pleasure being on your show, and thank you for all the heroic work that you do, and God be with you.
It's your friend, CJ Werleman, and today we exposed Israeli and American efforts to cover up their respective losses in their failing war against Iran. But first, please remember to like and subscribe to our show, while also turning on notifications so you never miss a single episode. Now let's get into it. No major conflict since the First World War has been subjected to more media censorship than the Zionist Crusader War against Iran. And the reason for this is simple. Israel and the United States are not only taking a savage beating, but also losing control of every domain in which this battle is being fought, which means an expansion of violence and bloodshed across the Middle East, further destruction to the state of Israel, a collapse of the entire global economy, and then ultimately the death of American empire itself. So forget what you're seeing and reading on Zionist-friendly media outlets, given they are operating under strict orders to not report the devastating impact that Iranian missile and drone strikes are having on Israel, the United States military, and its allies in the Persian Gulf. This truth is being deliberately hidden in plain sight for domestic political purposes, with the Trump administration banning independent journalists from White House and Pentagon press briefings, as the Israeli government threatens its citizens with jail time for posting footage of Iranian missiles slamming into the country, which explains why reports aired from Tel Aviv are heavily censored on CNN and Fox News.
Again, Iran continues to show an offensive capability, launching missiles at central Israel. We have one interceptor over my shoulder right now. We can't show you because we can't show landmarks, Martha, but something that has really changed here.
We're not showing you that because we're not going to show, the Israeli government does not allow us or want us to show where that may have come up, that interceptor. But I'm not.
This is why Trump and Netanyahu were furious when Fox News and other networks let slip that Israel is secretly panicked over dwindling supplies of US manufactured interceptor missiles for its Iron Dome air defense system.
We're seeing more drones penetrate our defenses than I think expected. We should be really honest with ourselves about that. That brings up, frankly, a larger issue that I've been talking about on this network for years. We have our critical installations around the world have been vulnerable. There are people in some of our own government offices who have failed the American people in purchasing failed equipment. That's why we're seeing some of these Shahid drones get through. Even one enemy drone getting through our defenses and striking a U.S. embassy overseas is unacceptable. And Martha, something, a cheap $20,000 Shahid forcing us to burn multi-million-dollar interceptors, starting fires currently at oil facilities and U.S. embassies, that's unsustainable math. Marco Rubio
As time goes by, and as the Israelis run out of defensive interceptors, interceptors that can knock down these incoming ballistic missiles, the amount of damage that Iran can do to Israel will be very great.
In the very first 4 days of this conflict, Iran destroyed or severely damaged nearly every US military base in the Middle East, which together took more than 70 years and billions of dollars to build and equip.
Sunday morning, an Iranian strike set a makeshift U.S. operations center at the civilian port ablaze. 6 American service members were killed in the attack. You can see smoke rising from the fire. The blown-out 3-wide trailer blackened on the inside. There are few signs of fortification. In another attack, a drone, this appears to be the Arash 2, crashes into U.S. positions in Camp Buring. A building severely damaged. American helicopters parked inside the base were nearly hit. In Bahrain, a Shahid attack drone flies into the base that hosts the U.S. Navy's 5th Fleet, one of the largest American naval formations in the world. It looks alarmingly defenseless. The drone hits one satellite communication terminal, clearly seen here. But the scale of the damage is more obvious here, warehouses and other buildings damaged, and another satellite communication terminal destroyed in a separate attack. We see this pattern of targeting throughout the region. At least 5 satellite communication terminals were destroyed. It points to a possible Iranian effort to cut US bases off from the outside world.
Now that Iran has destroyed and degraded key radars and air missile defense systems, an overwhelming majority of US surveillance, interception, and air defense networks have been disabled in the region, effectively bringing down a security shield built over dozens of years. This radar blindness means Israel's airspace is now open for further waves of powerful Iranian attacks, as illustrated by an on-the-ground report from a Spanish journalist in Tel Aviv, who said Iranian missiles are now striking the city without detection or advanced warning.
Muchas dos detonaciones, 2 bombazos en la zona donde estamos, acaban de caer, en las inmediaciones del lugar donde estamos, 2 bombazos, uno en la cercanía del aeropuerto. Estamos tratando de averiguar información, estamos otra vez en el refugio. Ha sido impactante y un detalle que nos ha inquietado mucho más, no sonaron las alarmas, así que esto nos ha sorprendido.
Put simply, Iranian firepower is now giving Israel the Gaza treatment, as the Zionist state is being hit on a scale that surpasses its worst imagined nightmares. Here's just a tiny sample of what Israel is desperate for its enemies to never see.
לא מאמינים. כל הרחוב נשבר, אין יותר, יואו, אתם לא מבינים מה קורה? מי בונה? הלך סורוקה, בראש שלי משפיע לך. בסורוקה, טירוף מוחלט. תראו את האנשים. יאללה, אנשים, פנימה.
कल का जो इजरायलियन जो कि यहाँ पे हिमाचल चलाते हैं फूकने के लिए, उन्होंने बताया देयर वर 4 हाउसेस, नोबडी इज अलाइव। इससे पता लगता है कि बड़ी वहां घटना हुई। और मैं आपको सच बताऊं कि वहां का टेक्नोलॉजी जो कहने की बात है ना, अलार्म बजता था हम लोग को। एक दिन सुबह 5 बजे की बात मैं आपको बताऊं कि अलार्म बजा ही नहीं, बस धुड़ुम धुड़ुम की आवाजें आ रही थी। पता लगा कि बिना अलार्म की चीजें आ गई। तो टेक्नोलॉजी फेल है। और जब वो आपके ड्रोन्स और खासतौर से मिसाइलें दगती है ना, तो नहीं पता हमारे 200 मीटर से हम कितनी दूरी पे हैं। और अभी आपको पता लगा होगा कि खासतौर से मिडिल ईस्ट में सारे अमेरिकन एम्बेसी को उन्होंने टारगेट किया। हो सकता है कि तेल अवीव की इसको टारगेट किया था, तो हम भी नहीं।
Life for Israel and its Arab state allies have deteriorated so unexpectedly bad as a result of Iranian missile and drone attacks that the United States was forced to move air defense systems from South Korea to the Middle East during the past 24 hours. But if you're looking for hard evidence that accurately reflects the current scoreboard, then examine the way Trump and his Republican allies are trying to distance themselves from the decision to follow Israel into this war.
What is left? Why are we at war with Iran?
Great question. Yeah, great question. I mean, the simplest explanation, might be the one that they gave 24 hours in, that they've kind of tried to backtrack since then, which is that Israel made us do it.
On Tuesday, Trump, who typically steals and claims exclusive credit for every piece of good news, no matter how minor or absurd, began blaming his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, property developer Steve Witkoff, and former Fox News host Peter Hegseth for leading him into this war.
The situation was very quickly approaching the point of no return, and the United States found it intolerable, in my opinion, based on what Steve and Jared and Pete and others were telling me, Marco, so involved, that I thought that they were going to attack us. I thought they would, if we didn't do this at the time we did it, I think they had in mind to attack us.
Iran is acutely aware that Trump has boxed the United States into a corner and with no easy exit in sight, which is why Tehran has responded to US pleas for a ceasefire or return to negotiations by telling Trump to shove his so-called peace talks by saying, "You may have started this war, but we will be sure to finish it on our own terms."
Right now, you're saying Iran does not want a ceasefire.
We are not asking for a ceasefire. And we don't see any reason why we should negotiate with the US. When we negotiated with them twice, and every time they attacked us at the middle of negotiations. So there is no request for a ceasefire by us, and there is no request for the negotiation with the US from us. We have never sent any messages to them.
Iran is not only destroying billions of dollars worth of American military bases and equipment throughout the region, but also literally driving the United States out of the Middle East, which was an unthinkable reality just a few weeks ago. Both Trump and Netanyahu wrongly gambled that air power alone would dislodge the Iranian regime, a miscalculation that was summed up perfectly by Professor Robert Pape, who says Israel and the United States have bitten off more than they can chew, a sentiment echoed by former CIA analyst Larry Johnson, who says Trump made the ultimate sin of underestimating Iran's capabilities.
I wish I was coming to you with happier news. This attack by the United States is unprovoked. The United States, I believe, is going to pay a terrible price for this. They entered this attack thinking it would be short-lived, that we'd be able to quickly hit, decapitate senior leadership, and then the war would be over in short order. They failed, utterly failed on the part of intelligence to accurately count the capability of Iran with respect to its ballistic missiles. And as a result, Iran is going to be able to keep up this pace of attack on U.S. bases and Israeli facilities for quite some time.
In any war, the odds of victory always favor the home team, a reality underscored last week by the US intelligence community when it released a report saying Trump's plan for Iran is doomed to fail, a staggering assessment that means the Zionist crusader war against Iran has no achievable objective, which means every missile fired from this point forward is a total waste of human life and money, notwithstanding the fact that this war cost American taxpayers $5 billion in the first 96 hours alone, money that could have been spent fixing the country's broken healthcare and education systems.
Here we are well into the second week, and it is still the case that the Trump administration cannot explain the reasons that we entered this war, the goals we're trying to accomplish, and the methods for doing that. The one part that seems clear is that while there is no money for 15 million Americans who lost their health care, there's $1 billion a day to spend on bombing Iran.
Instead, this money has bought only more failure and humiliation in a foreign land as Israel and the United States stare down a strategic, tactical, and political defeat, which is why Trump's call for total surrender has only been met with even more Iranian firepower and resistance. Tehran's decision to close the Strait of Hormuz was the ultimate a move that has already inflicted a heavy economic blow on the American people and American allies, a cost that continues to increase significantly by the day for both Israel and the United States, a cost that will soon rocket further upwards as Iran begins laying mines in the vital energy corridor.
Iran has begun laying mines in the Strait of Hormuz. This is according to two people familiar with the matter. It's another major complication as the world's top oil exporter warns there could be, quote, catastrophic consequences for oil markets if the conflict keeps disrupting ship and oil tanker traffic through the strait. He says beyond upending shipping and insurance, the ongoing disruption could snowball, threatening aviation, agriculture, and other industries.
This is Trump finding out the hard way why all 7 US presidents that came before him chose against launching a war against Iran since the Iranian Revolution of 1979. His hubris and arrogance is why the United States is now staring down the same barrel of a gun that collapsed the US economy in 2008, when a spike in oil prices sent the cost of living and household debt rocketing upwards.
When oil hit about $122, $123 a barrel, in early 2008, we had food riots, you recall, in 22 countries. When oil hit $147 a barrel in July of 2008, all the prices across the supply chain for everything we buy went through the roof. And in that month, July 2008, purchasing power shut down all over the world.
It seems that everything is costing more.
Food costs expected to rise 4% this year.
Just 60 days after oil hit $147 a barrel, for the first time in history, the stock market fell a record 777 points in a single day.
The worst day on Wall Street. The market fell as if down a well.
We're down over 16%.
Because we're now down 43%.
The Dow traders are standing there watching in amazement, and I don't blame them.
And that was the economic earthquake. The collapse of the financial markets 60 days later, that was the aftershock.
Trump promised a swift victory, telling reporters Iran will surrender within several days to several weeks. But Iran's military can sustain at least 6 months of high-intensity conflict and is preparing to deploy advanced long-range missiles, suggesting the war is far from entering a de-escalation phase, all of which suggests the United States has found itself in yet another disastrous quagmire, akin to the defeats it suffered in Vietnam, Afghanistan, and Iraq. As the saying goes, history doesn't always repeat, but it certainly rhymes.
Regimes like this that have their power base in fear and intimidation tend to topple fairly quickly.
I'm confident that our troops will be successful, and I think it'll go relatively quickly.
It could last, 6 days, 6 weeks. I doubt 6 months.
You can say 4 weeks, but it could be 6, it could be 8, it could be 3.
We expect to last about 4 to 6 weeks.
Right from the beginning, we projected 4 to 5 weeks, but we have capability to go far longer than that.
The ghosts of the disastrous Iraq War now have congressional members of the U.S. Senate Committee on Armed Forces completely spooked.
I emerged from this briefing as dissatisfied and angry, frankly, as I have from any past briefing in my 15 years in the Senate. I am left with more questions than answers, especially about the cost of the war. I guess I am most concerned about the threat to American lives of potentially deploying our sons and daughters on the ground in Iran.
Iran is now inflicting death on the United States and Israel by 1,000 cuts. It knows that in an asymmetric war, it doesn't need to deliver a knockout blow. It only needs to remain resilient and exhaust its enemies, who will come under increasing pressure to eventually retreat and accept defeat. Compounding Israeli and American woes is the fact that Iran has unlimited options to escalate its response, from involving the Houthi militias to completely shutting off the Strait of Hormuz to activating its sleeper terror cells throughout Europe and North America. The US and Israel, on the other hand, are left with only one option: more bombs, which have not only failed to remove the Iranian regime, but succeeded in uniting the Iranian people. Watch a large crowd in Tehran not even flinch a muscle when an American airstrike landed almost on top of them.
شاهد اجتماع حضور مردم هستیم در میدان انقلاب. ما نمیترسیم، ما اینجاییم، ما اینجا هستیم، مردم اینجا هستند. حتی در مقابل پدافندها در برابر موشک‌ها ایستادن، مردم ایستادن، اومدن بیعت کنن با امامشان.
We will continue to report these realities, despite the Israel lobby's effort to silence our channel, remembering that it successfully pressured YouTube into demonetizing our channel 6 months ago. Therefore, we kindly ask that you please support our effort to expose and confront the Zionist lobby and other injustices in the Muslim world by becoming a member of our show at patreon.com/CJ We can't produce, sustain, and grow the show without your help. And we offer exclusive content and benefits to those who do. But for now, good night, good morning, wherever you are, and stay blessed.
Whether you need repair.
Everybody, how they're profiting from it. So we're going to get to 2 weeks this weekend. That's guaranteed. And more. That's also guaranteed. Because now both positions are, I would say, set in stone, in fact. And this is not hyperbolic. From the point of view of the Empire of Chaos and their volatile, and I heard this first from the Chinese, and it's fantastic. The baboon in Mar-a-Lago. This is how Trump is being referred to on the Chinese internet. And I would even do a tweak with that. The baboon of War-a-Lago. Because this is what it is. So To prove that, please, all of you, our audience, go to my Telegram channel. I uploaded a few minutes ago a 2-part investigation on Substack by a website called Democracy Defender. It's extraordinary in terms of their naming names in detail and how each of these gangster figures, all part of the Trump administration, are profiting zillions from the war on Iran. So there is the direct component now that we have names, and it's very easy to check what they have been doing. Everybody, the Secretary of Energy, Howard Lutnick, not to mention Witkoff and Kushner, everybody. The crazy Christian Zionist push-up clown posing as Secretary of Forever Wars, Hegseth, everybody, how they're profiting from it, and how this war was destined to happen because it has been planned for a long time by the usual bunch of neocon suspects and the Zionist lobby in Washington and in the Beltway, until they found the right president to unleash it. And the president is the baboon of Mar-a-Lago. So this is just a small detail of the bigger picture. The bigger picture is that the American elites need this war. And Trump, once again, is their messenger. As inconsequential and as absurdist as he is, his latest is that he is defining the war on Iran as an excursion. His own words. So the whole planet cannot take this baboon seriously. The problem is he holds the whole planet hostage with his volatile mood swings and his psychology of a 4-year-old, perhaps 2-year-old, in fact. So they are already, as you know, Nima, carpet bombing Iran. And this will increase. And this was threatened once again earlier this week by the Secretary of Forever Wars. It's the only thing they have left. Of course, there's absolutely no debate in American mainstream media of their horrendous losses, especially across West Asia and all their military bases, installations, CIA cells, acknowledged CIA cells or invisible CIA cells, hotels that are hosting US military personnel transferred from the bombed bases, you name it. So at the same time, and that gets even crazier, we have the taco element. Trump always chickens out. We are counting, many of us. So far, we have already identified 4 tacos these past few days in desperation. And today, we had confirmation that there were already at least 2 tacos involving Oman. This means that the White House and their sycophants, emissaries, mini gangsters, whatever, they are approaching Turkey, Qatar, Oman, and in the case of Russia, directly, Trump, when he called Putin, not the other way around. So these are 4 instances of taco. He's desperate to find an off-ramp, a way out. Of course, he can never say that in public. He says that in public cryptically. I can end this war anytime I want. We're winning. We're tired of winning. There's nothing else to bomb. We bombed everything. So this is code language to, okay, so that's it. I can declare victory anytime I want, which is what he will do eventually. Not because of the absolutely appalling losses of the US in West Asia, but because the markets would force him to. Otherwise, he'll go down in history as the guy who provoked the total collapse of the global economy, which is already on the way. And this, the Strait of Hormuz is one component of the big picture. And it's getting more complicated by the day. Just as a start to you, Nima, and to all of you, our audience, there are 4 levels of transiting or not transiting in the Strait of Hormuz now, which until a few days ago was an international waterway, the most important bottleneck in the world. So now there are 4 levels. First level, China. You can go back and forth anytime you want, anywhere you want to go, wherever you come from, going to China, no problem. Or if you're going back from China to refuel in the Persian Gulf, no problem, because there is a bilateral deal, Tehran, Beijing, which was concluded last Thursday. Definitely, first there was an understanding, an oral understanding. Then they struck a real deal this past Thursday. The second tier is countries who ask Iran for free passage. And then there are 2, especially, but the situation is completely different between both. One of them is Bangladesh. Bangladesh diplomatically asked Iran, look, we have an enormous energy problem. The Iranians said, no problem. As long as you identify yourselves as, coming and going to Bangladesh, no problem. And India. India is extremely complicated. There was a phone call a few days ago, and I include this in one of my columns this week, between Jaishankar, the Ministry of Foreign Relations of India, and Arakshi, Minister of Foreign Relations of Iran. Basically, Jaishankar was asking for free passage in the Strait of Hormuz. This was the key of the conversation. Apparently, Arakshi said yes, and Arakshi behaved like a gentleman, the gentleman that he is. He's a real diplomat, vastly experienced. And he said, look, considering how you treated us these past few weeks, we're going to have to talk about that in the future, but it's okay. Let's keep our relationship. Your strategic ambiguity, we understand why you practice that. But let's talk about this later. For the moment, let's see if our relationship evolves. There's one thing. Today, the Iranians said, no, we did not allow tankers going to India or Indian flag to travel through Hormuz. So now we have a discrepancy between what the foreign ministry in Tehran is saying and what the IRGC is saying. So we don't know how this is going to evolve. So this is tier 2. Then we get to tier 3, which is probably the most complicated of them all. Anybody that has connections with US, Israel, or Europe, or hostile nations, and that may include, for instance, Japan, but maybe not South Korea, verboten, you cannot cross Hormuz. That's it. No permit. And we will, don't even bother to ask because we won't give you a permit. And number 4, which is as complicated as number 3, everybody else. This means the rest of the world. If you have a tanker, whatever the flag of your tanker, and you risk crossing Hormuz without asking permission from Iran, you're going to get hit. This is exactly what happened to a tanker in the past few hours, which was Thai. And it was going to Thailand. They didn't ask permission. So now they're paying the price. So this is just to give to you the complexity of Hormuz, and of course the fact that the Iranians technically can say the strait is open, but at the same time the strait is closed. It depends on who you talk to, and it depends if you're going to get your permit or not. It's very, very simple, So you can imagine, Nima, the repercussions that we are already seeing, but the repercussions even next week is going to be even more hellish than it already is. Because this means most of the oil and the gas is not going anywhere. And you can imagine what this means to the global economy. It's 20% of the global economy's oil. So everything will be upside down. It is already upside down. Like airlines are already freaking out because the price of jet fuel will go to Mars. Grain, food shortages everywhere. So everything now is, and obviously the markets cannot price all that because they don't know where it's going, how it's going to progress or regress for that matter. So this is what the Americans will have to come to grips with, because if with the situation right now, we already have 4 tacos, in the next few days, we're going to have 3 or 4 more tacos, and he has to find a way out. Basically, proclaim victory and leave. But if he proclaims victory and leaves, this means the strategic defeat will be crystal clear for the whole planet. It will be the end of his presidency, guaranteed. The end of American hegemony in West Asia, more than guaranteed. That's already ongoing. And of course, the end of hegemony globally, because who can respect a superpower that gets into a war without planning it? And, they get their asses kicked big time by a medium-sized power under sanctions for 47 years. So that's it. And on the Iranian side, as you know, Nima, they're not budging. We hear it from Arakshi, from Kalibaf, from everybody in the Majlis. Anybody is speaking. No, that's it. And our list of conditions, it's what I listed in this column that you referred to, the eviction notice to the Americans. That's it. And this is shared by the invisible new Ayatollah Mojtaba Khamenei, new leader Ayatollah Mojtaba Khamenei, the political leadership, the Majlis, the whole of the RGC, all the military, and the population of Iran as well. That's it. And if you don't, okay, this is your eviction notice. You don't want it, okay, the war continues. And the war will end when we say so. We, Iran, not the US. So this is crazy. This, I think, it conveys to you how the whole system of international relations is now completely upside down. And we don't know where this is going. Nobody knows where this is going. And it is a do or die direct clash. The thing is, who's going to blink first? It's not going to be Iran. That's guaranteed. And the price they are paying for that, as you know, Nima, personally, it's horrendous. But there's no other way. There's no other. If you want to defeat an empire, like the Vietnamese did, they paid an horrendous price, and they did defeat an empire.
Pepe, Donald Trump is trying to somehow, by new rhetorics, trying to manipulate the market. But
yes,
looking at what's going on in Germany and France, for example, they started using their reserves of oil. And the United States yesterday has announced that they're going to use their strategic oil reserves. But many people should understand that these reserves are meant to be used for mostly 2 to 3 months, not more than that. And so what is the strategy after this short time? And how do you think that Donald Trump would be able to somehow convince the market that he's doing something? Because after all, you don't see those signs appearing in the market. The oil is going up, is not going down.
No, the markets are not convinced. To answer your question with bluntly, yes. And even the U.S. releasing some of their strategic reserves, what they are releasing or what they are announcing they're going to release will last, according to the best calculations, around a week. That's about it. So 1 week from now, they're going to have to release more. And then they're going to start to freak out big time. So these are mini measures that don't alter what's happening on the battlefield. The fact that Iran now tweaked once again their strategy, and now they are launching ultra hardcore volleys of their most powerful missiles, not the old batch anymore, like the Khorramshahr 4, including Khorramshahr 4, which is a sort of mother missile with 80 mini missiles that can be directed electronically to different locations as well. This over Israel, it's a death sentence, you know. And they have in their underground missile cities in the east part of Iran, hundreds, if not in the low thousands of these missiles. Of course, we're hearing from the only thing that the Department of Forever Wars says is we're bombing everything, we're going to bomb even more, we are tired of bombing. No evidence, nothing that they are really inflicting serious damage to Iran. No, they're bombing indiscriminately. And now, without the raiders in practically all the raiders in West Asia, in all these petromonarchies, they are dead. They're gone. Not to mention the ones in Jordan and in Erbil in Iraq. So the margin of maneuver for the swarms of drones from Iran and now the new batches of super missiles is increasing by the day. Of course, it comes back to political perception, everything, because these people they don't even look at what's really happening in the battlefield. They need to find a narrative to sell to domestic public opinion in the US and to the rest of the world. And it's impossible because any narrative they will sell, the strategic defeat will be implicit. There's no way out. There's no way out. And that's why it gets more dangerous by the day, because they certainly will be tempted to do something literally apocalyptic, which, by the way, is the mindset of many of these people inside the US administration. I'm not talking about the death cult in West Asia, because this is a bunch of certified apocalyptic psychos. But there are many among the Zionist axis in the Beltway, in Washington, or in New York, who think like that in apocalyptic terms. And then the path will be open for tactical nuclear weapons or even nuclear weapons. It's still on the table. It's still possible. And that's why it's so terrifying.
I think what's militarily is important to be considered right now. Looking at the map of Iran, you see mostly the targets are in the western of Iran. Yeah. And that shows how, because Donald Trump, looking at what Donald Trump is talking, Pete Hegseth, we are controlling everything. The airspace is in our hand. That is not the case, because they're using the Iraqi airspace, getting closer to the Iranian borders and then shooting at Iran. They're not flying over Iran, like what they were. It's amazing that, all these narratives are falling apart, in my opinion. And you've mentioned something so important, Pepe, which is the radars in the Persian Gulf and in Israel as well. We know most of these radars were destroyed so far. And the air defense systems cannot work without these radars. And they're just
There are photos, Nima, of swarms of Iranian ballistic missiles flying over Israel and going to their targets, and obviously they cannot be intercepted. And some stuff that is filmed by people on the ground or I saw some image shot by Chinese sailors or Japanese sailors. It's absolutely, you see actually the interceptors just going crazy everywhere except hitting their target. And yes, we all know that they are running out of interceptors all over the spectrum. In desperation, the Americans had to repatriate the THAADs and the Patriots from South Korea. The people in South Korea, the informed people in South Korea, they are beyond angry because the Americans forced them to host these THAADs and Patriots in South Korea. In terms of the relationship with China, was an absolute disaster. And only a few days later, the Americans say, okay, bringing them back, without even asking the South Koreans. So this is how the US treats the vassals as a whole. The only non-vassal is Israel, because after all, it's the same thing, right? And of course, this is a long-term process. What these petromonarchies in the Gulf, how are they going to reassess their relationship with the Americans? Or will they be dumb enough to try to keep everything going like it was before, which is impossible, you know? And considering the fact that some of them will be on the way to extinction. Well, Dubai, for all practical purposes, once again, the Dubai business model is dead. And the Emirates, to a great extent, they are about to collapse. There's no way out, you know. So, but these are long-term effects. The short-term effect was delineated by this list sent by Iran through various channels to the Americans. They say, look, if you don't follow our point-by-point list of demands, there's no ceasefire and there's no end to this war. And the list of demands is quite something. It includes everything. End of sanctions, reparations to Iran. Iran continues with its civilian nuclear program the way it wants to do it, with no inspections, nothing. And of course, there's even in one of the points, the larger, the full 9 points, one of them includes a personal apology to Ayatollah Mojtaba Khamenei by Trump. Obviously, this will never happen. But that's it. This is the eviction notice, something that none of us could ever imagine it will happen now. A mid-sized power reading the Riot Act to the greatest armada in the history of Star Wars or whatever. The exceptionalists themselves, I say, look, this is it. And if you don't follow, you're going to be mired in this war and you will not have a way out unless you surrender. So the terms of surrender have been handed by Iran to the US. This is, in geopolitical terms, this is the mother of all upsets, right?
Jens Bark, give me the day off. I'm skipping work today. You should too, Stu.
I think looking at the reality of what's going on, Pepe, the offensive power of the United States, so far a quarter of Tomahawk missiles were used, a quarter. And we are not getting to, we're getting less than 2 weeks of the conflict. But in terms of the defensive, the situation is even worse. They needed to bring all those air defense systems from South Korea to Israel to defend Israel. I don't know how capable that would be for Israel, but in a long run, you see the capabilities, the offensive capabilities of the United States reducing, and the defensive capabilities of the United States and Israel is also reducing because, the radars are not there anymore. The air defense system, early warning system is not. Israelis are somehow experiencing something that they have never experienced before. And Not only that, bringing in the Arab states in the Persian Gulf, they were told, Pepe, before the war started, that Donald Trump told them that this war going to be over in 4 days. And look at what is happening right now.
Mm-hmm. And which brings us back to, he said that, 2 days ago or 3 days ago. And this is absolute. There are many. It doesn't even qualify as a page of the Dadaist manifesto or the Surrealist manifesto. It's everybody's at a loss for words, because this is coming from the President of the United States. This war is an excursion. I can end this war anytime I want. We are tired of winning. And then, in the middle of all that, he says, I got into this war because of Steve, Marco, Pete, etc. He's throwing his bunch of clowns under the bus, because obviously, the coward that he is, he cannot draw responsibility to him. It was his ultimate decision. He was not forced to do anything. And he's saying that the bunch of clowns who actually speak to him almost on a daily basis forced him to bomb Iran, which, if you take him at his word literally, these people are traitors to the United States, because they fed the President of the United States with false information, leading to a war. This is beyond serious. It's grounds to throw him in jail and throw everybody else in jail. So what is it? Once again, the only thing that they excel at is building narratives, tweaking narratives, and changing the narratives when it doesn't suit their purposes. And this is a master case of we have to tweak the narratives and change the narrative as soon as possible. And in between, we see this ghastly spectacle of throwing all the clowns under the bus, preventing himself from assuming the consequences of his acts and his decisions, bragging at the same time that he's winning, when obviously he's being fed false information over and over again, if you look at what's really happened in the battlefield, and trying to find Taco, trying to find the off-ramp that is absolutely impossible. Once again, because if he goes Taco, this is the recognition of a massive strategic defeat. Compared to it, everything that came before, Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan, was child's play, really. So all that, Nima, makes him even more dangerous than he already is. So this Chinese image of an out-of-control baboon completely applies. An orange baboon, cornered, very, very angry, dangerous, with no way out. And so he's going to unleash his fury everywhere. It's extremely, extremely dangerous.
I think we can see the threat of these false flag operations in the United States as well, because the FBI yesterday reportedly warned California police.
Exactly. You're running drones in California.
Gosh. It's amazing, they're just making things up. And who's doing this in the United States? If that happens, it's going to be a false flag. I don't see any reality to this sort of rhetorics, and nobody would believe that Iran would. What is happening? Because they're not just about the drones; they're talking about sleeper cells, as well. The Iran is preparing to. These are the same rhetorics. You remember when Donald Trump took power, was elected, they were doing the same. That these Iranian drones are here. Iranian Navy ship is here. They're sending drones to us. They want to destroy the United States. do you think that escalation would be a false flag or some false flag operations in the United States?
Even if they launch false flags, it won't be enough to convince, okay, at least the American population with an IQ over 10. Let's be optimistic, right? It will not convince them, of course. The war is already very unpopular. I think around 60-something, 66% or so, which is enormous. They consider this war a completely absurdist adventure, and it is, without the components of absurdity every day circulating everywhere. But they need to change the narrative. And there is absolutely nothing that they can sell to domestic public opinion at the moment, except from we're bombing the hell out of Iran. That's it. There's nothing else. Of course, they don't talk about the response. They don't talk about they have already lost all their defenses all across West Asia and beyond. No, they cannot talk about that. So they continue to fabricate stuff. Oh, and of course, the instances of possible false flag, the false flag index will go through the roof from now on.
Pepe.
And this is only week 2, Nima. We are only on week 2.
Yeah.
There's serious possibility that this will go on for at least another 3-4 weeks.
Yeah.
And then, of course, will be the destruction of the global economy. Even if it stops next week, which it won't, because the Iranians don't want to stop it. And they have the asymmetric war initiative. They have their deterrence strategy fine-tuned, and it's now getting into a higher gear. There's no interest for them to stop it. And they are saying it every day. No, the war ends when we want it to end. So this is the self-confidence of the military, who are on top of all things. And they know what they're doing.
Yeah. I think the problem is, Pepe, looking at what Iranian officials are talking about, we know what they want. We know what they're seeking for. They're saying no ceasefire. Nobody cares about ceasefire. We don't want to negotiate with the United States anymore because nobody trusts the United States in Iran anymore. And if there would be some sort of political moves, it's going to be Russia, China, international community. Nobody cares anymore about the United States or Israel. I don't see Steve Witkoff again. These guys are so much. Nobody would negotiate with them anymore. From what I've seen so far.
Let's see if the Russians learn their lesson.
Yeah,
that's another story. That's a very complicated story.
And Pepe, you've mentioned the phone call between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin. I think, do we know what was the main goal of Donald Trump calling Vladimir Putin? What does he want from Vladimir Putin?
No, we don't know because the leaking was very selective. And the Kremlin readout was somewhat cryptic. And what Ushakov said, Ushakov obviously was listening to the phone call. He was probably in the same room with Putin, right? And the way Ushakov framed it was fascinating, in fact. Basically, he was saying, without saying it directly, that Trump called Putin for help. This is the key of the whole thing, which, of course, the Russians were polite enough not to splash it, on the front pages everywhere, which they could. Because basically, that's another card that Putin can play. He could have said to Trump, I can be the mediator. I can find a solution because I get along well with all the players, including with you. But that will depend, of course, of the Russians convincing the Iranians that Russia can be a mediator now. Iran does not want any mediation, any diplomacy. They are saying over and over again, diplomacy has been killed by the Americans. So that's it. So the only thing we have is an ultimatum, which is what they delivered unofficially this week, the Riot Act, the eviction notice. If they comply with all that, especially, these are probably the three top points. The United States out of all the military bases all across West Asia. Point number one, most important. Number two, end of all sanctions, literally. And number three, we continue with our nuclear program, civilian nuclear program, the way we want it, with no inspections whatsoever, etc. We decide how we want to expand our civilian nuclear program. So let's say these are the three main points. As we know, the American establishment, not the orange baboon, will never agree to any of that. So that's why this is a war to the first, who's going to blink first. And assuming there is tackle, assuming Trump next week, anything is possible. Trump next week says, okay, we bombed Iran to smithereens. There's nothing else to bomb. I won, and that's it. What happens next? Does this mean that the United States is going to leave Israel by themselves and Israel will be devastated by Iran? Impossible. Does that mean that the United States is going to retire from the former Middle East, West Asia in all those bases? Not likely. Does that mean that the United States is going to come to an arrangement with Iran to have free passage for everybody in the Strait of Hormuz? No, because Iran already said no. The Strait of Hormuz now has been privatized. We run it, we manage, and we decide who has free transit or not. So this is not going to change as well. So even if there is a tackle, there's no follow-up. That's the problem. It's a dead end. For the Trump presidency, it's a dead end. Their only possible tackle would be to destroy Iran's will to resist. And this is stratospherically impossible. So the impasse continues,
You remember Benjamin Netanyahu talking with Vladimir Putin and asking him to send Iranian a message that Israel is not going to attack Iran. You remember after the 12-day war.
We remember.
Guys, I don't see anybody even in Russia, in Moscow, believing what Donald Trump is talking about or what Benjamin Netanyahu is talking about, because they know they have been deceiving the Russians in Ukraine for 4 years. And Donald Trump, for more than 12 months, he's deceiving Russians in Ukraine because he did these fake negotiations. He's sending intelligence, everything to Ukraine, and they're saying, no, we want to negotiate. We want to put an end to the conflict. I think the whole concept of Eurasia, Pepe, is important right now because you're talking about Iran, but Iran is somehow the foundation. It's going to be the base. If Iran doesn't exist, the structure going to collapse. And many people understand this. You remember when the war, this war started, the Israelis did everything to manipulate the southern Caucasus, the South Caucasus. They started with these tensions between Iran and Azerbaijan. They attacked false flag operation against Azerbaijan, saying Iranians were attacking you. And that's why, they try to do. But it seems that the situation, considering Azerbaijan, is under the control of Iran and Russia both. And we're not going to see the tensions, going up and rising. And how do you see the way that, the United States has a strategic partnership as they sign, Vice President of the United States signed with Azerbaijan. Israel is trying to manipulate the situation on the borders, between Azerbaijan, Zangezur corridor that Donald Trump wanted to put his name on this corridor. But do you think that concept, that sort of move was failed so far? And do you see the possibility of tensions in that direction?
Well, Turkey and Azerbaijan, they are not stupid to go against Iran now. And Iran already preempted that, saying, look, we're not going to attack any nation that has not attacked us, or even if they have American interests, are not attacking us. So this was a direct message to both Turkey and Azerbaijan. Stay where you are. Don't try anything. If you do, you're going to regret it. That was the message. Apparently, Turkey understood that very well. Azerbaijan is a much more complicated case because, the Aliyev gang, wow, it's a very complicated nest of gangsters, very close to Israel. Very, very important. The BTC pipeline angle is essential. Iran would not attack the BTC pipeline, take the initiative to attack the BTC pipeline. Because essentially, what they could do is to attack the cargoes that transport oil that flows through the BTC and arrive in Ceyhan in the Eastern Mediterranean in Turkey, and then go from Ceyhan to Israel, loaded with oil for Israel. Because the BTC serves several customers, including Georgia as a transit country and Turkey itself. So if Azerbaijan, Turkey, and Georgia are not doing anything against Iran, there's no point to attack the BTC. Depending on how they're going to act later is another story, not the case of Georgia, the case of Azerbaijan especially. But it could be attacking tankers carrying BTC oil in the Mediterranean to Israel. It's a legitimate target for Iran. This is something that might happen. Drone attacks. It could certainly happen. So it's a very Erdogan, because of course he's very, very wily. He spends his life hedging. He knows that in the case of Iran, he has to hedge. He cannot even hedge. He has to stay quiet, essentially. And of course, Iran knows that if there is an attack on Turkey, obviously, all those chihuahuas in Brussels are going to start screaming like rabid dogs, Article 5, Article 5, Article 5, Article 5. So, there are limits. But Azerbaijan is complicated because Azerbaijan, they could be a beneficiary of the North-South Transportation Corridor, assuming the corridor continues later on. We don't even know, for instance, if Iran will allow India to be a partner in the Chabahar port after what happened, One of the scenarios I'm thinking is this corridor could become a Russia, Iran, China corridor and not India anymore. It's quite possible because Russia and Iran, they were both betrayed by India. India has absolutely no support whatsoever from anybody. What they did to both Russia and then Iran later is seen all over as a betrayal, with the risk of blowing up BRICS from the inside, which means the BRICS have, an uphill struggle these next few months, not only to say, okay, what's the role of India this year? Do we allow India to be the chair and host the summit later this year after what happened? After all, they sided openly with the US and Israel. This means against BRICS interests, all of them. So, the situation with BRICS now is dire. It's beyond horrible. They are in deep coma. And we don't know how they're going to be resurrected.
The Prophet ﷺ said, the best charity is giving water. $100 gives one.
So all that is adds complexity every day to the whole thing. And if this war goes on for another few weeks, it's the total collapse of the global economy, period. So then all bets are off. Nobody knows what comes next. And I would say the intrinsic dementia of the international Zionist axis and this current administration in Washington could lead them to destroy the global economy eventually. Okay, we are cornered. We're not winning. On the contrary, we're losing. Okay, everybody else will also lose. This is the mentality of these gangsters. They're not thinking about anybody else apart saving their own assets.
Pepe,
terrifying. Every angle we look, Nima, it's really terrifying.
We know that Donald Trump is he's going to go to China. It seems that he's trying to convince Chinese to buy American oil.
No way, not gonna happen. Not gonna happen. First of all, because they don't need it, Nima. They have everything they need from Power of Siberia, the Power of Siberia 2, which is going to be completed within the next 2 years, now accelerated. Oil from Kazakhstan, the gas from Turkmenistan, gas from Myanmar. They don't need it. Forget it. Forget it. And of course, for the Chinese, this is a matter of national security. They cannot buy energy from a country that wants to go to war against them in the long run. It makes absolutely no geopolitical or even economic sense.
Pepe,
So the trade itself is already dead, assuming it continues. The Chinese, of course, they respect protocol. If they organize this trip, the trip will happen. But it won't be even a photo opportunity for Trump. The Chinese will handle it. Yeah, they will handle it, of course, very correctly from a diplomatic point of view, but it will be a minor event, inconsequential.
But in terms of Russia and Iran, what does Donald Trump want from China? That would be possible for China to help him.
Nobody knows. No, nobody knows. He doesn't know. He's not a strategist, Nima. He has no strategy. His strategy against Nima was only one: tariff war. He lost. That's it. There's nothing else. Well, on Trump 1.0 and also on Trump 2.0, there was only one strategy: tariff war. He lost the first one and he lost the second one. There's no plan B. And the Chinese know exactly what they don't want or need from the US. They are learning everything there is to be learned about the machinery of the empire on a military level in action. They're gathering beyond precious tsunamis of information about it, which they're going to use later. They will process it and use later. They are helping Iran with high-tech intel in real time. So what's the point of Trump going to Beijing? Okay, photo opportunity, and that's it. That it will be treated by the Chinese like that. Once again, inconsequential for the near future and for long-term plans.
Pepe, the other party that is influenced by the war in the West Asia is Europe. And Europe is just not by the West Asia. The conflict in Ukraine has hit Europe the way that no one, has expected before the war started. And right now, they're not receiving from Russia. They're not receiving from West Asia. And what is the strategy on the part of European? Do they have any strategy? Do they have a collective strategy or separate, considering these countries?
I love your question, Nima. when you start asking the question, I start laughing because, of course, you have to ask this question. But everybody knows the answer. There's no strategy. Their only strategy, plan A, is to blame everything that happens on Russia and now on Iran and now on both. That's it. You just need to follow a Brussels press releases, or every time those stupid female duo, I'm sorry, all of us who love women, but unfortunately these two are a disgrace to women. The toxic Medusa and that Estonian with the brain of a dismembered worm. That's it. Just listen to what they're saying, or their proclamations, or their posts, or whatever. You know, that's it. There's nothing else. There's no strategy. There's no nothing. And these idiots still refuse to acknowledge that their policies are leading Europe to a phenomenal energy crisis. Phenomenal. Horrendous. It has not even started, for sure. Now they have no gas from Qatar, no gas from Russia. Where are they going to get gas? Mars? Pathetic. And they inflict that on themselves. They, when I mean the European Union, the European Commission, especially. And there's no way out. And nobody's going to save them. And nobody cares. And the rest of the world don't care. And even if they want to buy, okay, they can buy Russian energy, paying an enormous price extra. They can buy American energy, paying a price they cannot afford. That's it. As long as they have, as long as they get loans from banks which they cannot pay back, okay, they can buy energy paying absurd prices in the spot market.
Yesterday, Wall Street Journal reported that Iran is exporting oil more than before the war started. And
yes, indirectly. So they're buying a Russian energy indirectly, of course.
And Pepe, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I think one of the most crucial questions right now in the mind of the Trump administration is how this war is changing Middle East, is changing all these Arab states together with Iran. And there is not much of argument coming out of these Arab states, but if you were to mention what is happening in the mind of these states, they were hosting American bases for many years. And right now, the war that is not their war is the United States and Israeli war in Iran, is influencing them the way that nobody was ever, I would say nobody in the leadership of these countries has ever thought about it. And what is happening in the mind of the leadership in these countries? Because it's not just about oil, it's about their life, it's about their life, it's about their business, everything. Dubai is just getting, these multi-billionaires are leaving Dubai.
There's only one question, Nima. Will they learn the lesson? It's too early to tell. You're going to have to wait. Going to have to wait, of course, after assuming there is an end to this war within the next few weeks. Then we're going to see if they learn their lesson or if they will continue to be disposable vessels, which is exactly what they are. And it must be now for all of them. These are very tribal, proud people. They look like they have been treated like less than shit by the superpower was supposed to protect them. Let's see if they draw the necessary conclusions. I think none of us should bet our money on it. But assuming they do, then we're going to have a radical rearranging geopolitically of the whole of West Asia and especially the petromonarchies in the Gulf. Of course, the Russians and the Chinese are looking at it very carefully, since they have so many interests and good relationships. Because then, if it's not going to be the American umbrella, it could eventually, in the future, become a Russian-Chinese umbrella. And of course, in terms of the petrodollar, the ramifications towards the petro-yuan are going to be more and more solid, to say the least. But it's too early to tell. It's too early to tell. For the moment, they are in a state of shock because this has been very, very fast. Can you imagine that from one day to another, the whole Dubai business model is gone? 2 weeks ago, Dubai was the crossroads of the planet. Now it's dead, just like that. It's it's not even a nod and a wink in historical terms. That's it, and it won't come back. Nobody's going to invest in Dubai anymore, and it's not the safe haven for expats anymore. That's it. It's over. So we don't know what's going to come next. We don't know how the others are going to, how Qatar is going to recover. We don't know if these bases will be rebuilt by the Americans. If they are rebuilt, everything is going to happen, that there will be another war in the future replicating this one. If they decide, no, you cannot have bases in our sovereign territory anymore, the American reactions, especially under this president, is unpredictable. They could decide to bomb them again, but this time coming from the empire. So all bets are off. For the moment, all bets are off. But let's see if they have a working brain, these collective petromonarchies. If they don't, wow, they're going to pay the price all over again in the near future.
I think many, Pepe, are interested, before wrapping up, are interested about what is the future of Iranian nuclear program and how is the new leader, is he going to change the policy toward nuclear bombs, nuclear weapons? Because, you know, they see what is happening with the case of North Korea. They have nukes, they have nuclear bombs. That's why nobody is attacking them. And so why does Iran need to stay, you know, in NPT and all of these institutions that doesn't make sense for Iran anymore? They're attacked. They are fighting an existential war right now. I think these are huge questions on the part of the leadership in Iran right now.
Can I ask you this question, Nima? Okay, let me put it very concisely. You are Mojtaba Khamenei. You are the new supreme leader, and you are preserving the legacy of your father. You know that your father was probably the biggest obstacle to Iran having a nuclear bomb. No. Now it's over. Now it's a new system, and Iran is at war. What would you do? Or if you were a foreign policy advisor to Mojtaba Khamenei, what would you suggest him to do?
I think the obvious path is that you build nuclear weapons because these are deterrents, you know. These are not meant to be used, and nobody has used them since, you know, the last time the United States used them. These are guarantees for the security, for the future of the country, that nobody would attack you anymore. I think that is happening, Pepe. I think that is happening as we talk, because they saw the supreme leader of Iran for many years. He said that these are against the human right, you know, against the humanity and all this concept which we know exists within Islam. We know the morality of the argument, but you have to accept the reality outside of Islam. You see the reality outside, you know, you see the might makes right, this is the reality of today's world. And that should be considered by their leadership in Iran. They have to understand, if they decide to go the same way that they did before, that the United States is going to attack again and again, Israel is going to attack and again and again. And what is the solution to that? I think that's hugely important right now with the new leadership in Iran. What is the path forward? And that's, if I were, logically thinking of what's going on, mathematically, they're going to build nukes. Thank you, Pepe.
There you go, Nima.
Kofi, follow me.